What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Tuesday show, gang. Good afternoon, everybody. 115, 116 just rolling over here. Starting slightly earlier than yesterday, but a little bit later than I wanted to for a big 11-game slate that we got to get through today. Going to try and make a little bit better pace than we did yesterday. We kind of dragged along. It was a really good show. Thought we were all over a lot of different things. But ran out of time back toward the end of the day, getting NBA and everything. It was frantic there for a couple hours. Got everything done. Everything was on the site for you guys. But on my end, it was a little bit rough. So I'm going to try and give myself a little bit more time today. But we'll talk through this big, really interesting slate. Go through all the details as usual. We're not going to shortchange it. So if we need the time, we'll take the time. I mean, I'm not going to just lop games off or breeze through things. But maybe I won't take as many tangents. Maybe I won't tell you as much about my life, my fantasy league, and whatever other nonsense I talk about. Cujo's here. What's going on, Cuj? Lone Wolf, good to see you, buddy. Couple people trickling in. Pop-up shows, bad scheduling on my part. I know it takes a second for everybody to show up, but really appreciate everybody who's been here for the first few shows of the year. Really appreciate all the likes, new subscribers, old subscribers coming back. All you guys absolutely rock. Really makes my day. And we've had some solid results so far. I think we've had winners either with the logo or without on both sites pretty much every day. Got a couple to shout out from yesterday. Let me get to them. D-Boogie 21 ended up in 28th in, I believe this is the main contest on DraftKings. Looks like it was only a $200 payout. The guy who was 27 places higher in first place took home $100,000 in that contest. They had a pretty damn good lineup. Glasnow and Ben Brown. Carson Kelly, who hit for a cycle yesterday. How about the Chicago Cubs? 18 runs on the board. They were the top of our power index yesterday. One of our more highly ranked stacks. Going right back to the well, I think, maybe today. You had some Michael Bush in there. You had some Cole Keith, Will Wagner, Dansby Swanson, Kyle Tucker. Ian Happ kind of let us down. Wild that Ian Happ only put up 6 fantasy points in a game where that team scored 18 runs. But a very solid lineup. And obviously hyper competitive up toward the top of the big DraftKings contest. And then congrats to Freaky Meech. Freaky Meech with the logo. Appreciated, buddy. Took down a, looks like a mid-sized single entry. The 4K knuckleball on FanDuel. Took first place. Knocked down $1,000 for his entry. Love to see that. That was a Drew Rasmussen lineup with Cubbies. Looks like Cubbies, Rays, or Cubbies, Dodgers 3-man, and a Brendan Lau 1-off. So Lau didn't actually even get us there. Had Ian Happ in it, who was meh. Max Muncy didn't really have a great game. And still that lineup crushed. Kyle Tucker's in there. Ohtani and Conforto contributed. Dansby, Michael Bush, and then Rasmussen had a good game. So solid results, guys. Congrats to you guys. Congrats to anybody else who did well yesterday. And let's move on. Let's tackle today. Let's see the same thing. Woody, nice, dude. Sounds like Woody did well. Third in the mega $3 last night. Love it. Love it. Just give me a turn every now and again. So, yeah, as Lone Wolf says, monster slate. Again, 11 games to talk through. So let me, Millie's here. Millie says, I'm still a loser. One of these days, buddy. One of these days. But let's dive into this thing because we do have a lot to talk about. A whole bunch of the pitchers still guys making their first start of the year, but we do have a handful of guys making their second. And then we actually have Justin Steele, the outlier, making his third start of the year for the Cubs, which is a little bit wacky. But an interesting board. A couple of young pitchers making debuts, or in the case of the Brewers pitcher, he pitched an inning in relief on Saturday, but his starting debut. Only one monster total on the board. That's Tampa Bay going up against the Pirates rookie at a 5.12, kind of the outlier high that we've seen so far this season. That's the highest total, at least on a main slate. 9-run total for the game. They're fairly heavily favored. The kid pitching is the Pirates' number 3 prospect, though, so there's a little bit of talent there. We'll talk about him when we get to that game. But obviously, Tampa's going to be drawing some eyeballs. They rate out pretty well on the stacks board, but not this top go-to team in terms of the fantasy projections that they're drawing, right? So there's the distinct difference there. I mentioned it yesterday. That's why I added the Vegas totals, the implied totals to that stacks board, so you can kind of see the contrast between like where they rank out fantasy points for the full lineup versus what the Vegas total actually looks like, because those things can be very different. Top of the board, the Diamondbacks at the Yankees actually are the top projected team of the day. They're drawing a ton of power against Will Warren. I actually really like Will Warren, but I didn't start him in my Dynasty League this week because I do not like that matchup against the D-backs at all, particularly in Yankee Stadium. Yanks drawing their fair share of implied runs as well, 4.32, the debut of Corbin Burns for the Diamondbacks. Pittsburgh at Tampa, again, Pittsburgh side of that one not looking all that appealing, but maybe a little bit of quality there. I mean, just under a 4-run total, and we know there are some good bats on that team. Washington, we can definitely draw some shares from the top of that batting order. Looks like an okay-ish spot. 3.84 implied total is not all that appealing. They're underdogs on the road in Toronto, but it's a healthy enough game environment. 4.75, much juicier on the other side for the Blue Jays, who have been moderately productive to start the season at best. But that's the second highest total on the board and something we're going to at least take a look at. Royals and the Brewers, again, the Brewers throwing a rookie up there who probably with a fairly aggressive innings cap. I gave all three of those guys just kind of moderate innings for this one. We'll see what they end up looking like. But the Royals, an effective team that we're definitely going to be considering on and off at least throughout the season, especially in a what looks like a fairly appealing matchup. They're over a 4-run total for today. That's good enough. 8.5 runs for the game. 4.41 on the Brewers side. Definitely some upside in that lineup. Several star caliber players to work with. So like getting to that one. We just need them to get going. Twins and the White Sox. Got to break up the White Sox. They've been red hot to start the season. Ridiculous. Worst team in baseball still. Don't read into it. Twins side of that one, 4.21 implied total. There are some bats, low run total overall. That Twins team can be very up and down, but we can definitely draw tournament shares from that, and the shaky nature of that team sometimes can lead to them being under-owned in a pretty good spot. I would expect they'll draw some popularity, though. White Sox side, 3.37 implied total, just hilariously low. The Angels at the Cards. Decent, almost a 4-run total on the Angels side of that one. They're projecting out a little bit better than that total might suggest, and that's partially Mike Trout, just partially I still will continue to talk about this. I do think that lineup is maybe a little bit better than people suspect. Not out of the gate so far, but I think they'll come around. 4.62 implied total for the Cards. They're going up against the corpse of Kyle Hendricks. Should be interesting there. A pitcher they've seen quite a bit of over the years, too. Used to be with the Cubs. Andy's here. Afternoon, everybody. Dennis is here. Good to see you, Den. Speaking of the Cubs. Where are we? Giants and the Astros. Logan Webb on the bump. 4.10 implied total on the Giants side. Keeping the Astros down under a 4 total, suppressing their power. Should be interesting. We can take a look at him as far as pitching shares go. Not sure what the popularity is going to look like. That'll probably decide how much I want him. But as usual, I don't love attacking that Astros team, even with good pitching. And Logan Webb, as good as he is not a peak strikeout guy in any way. So if you're going to artificially limit his already somewhat lower strikeout ceiling, I don't love it. On the Giants side, they're actually drawing a little bit of power upside, so we're going to take a look at them. Tigers and the Mariners, I mentioned this one yesterday. This was my, I was hoping that Casey Mize would come in a little bit cheaper, but he's still effectively cheap, right in the middle of the board as far as price goes, and projects out pretty well, kind of like right where I was expecting him to be. I'm hoping we get him through at, I didn't even check the ownership, actually. I'm hoping we get him a little bit lighter maybe than what we were looking at yesterday. Let's see. If you remember, I was saying Job you could get away with yesterday, but I didn't love where he was priced. Yes, this is what we want. Low single digits on FanDuel. This is what we want, gang. Let's see where the DraftKings number is. Give me a low ball. Come on. It's a big slate. All right, just barely into the double digits as a value SP2 on DraftKings. We could take that. That's perfect. Granted, their ownership has been, as I've said a few times, kind of all over the map. So take that with a grain of salt. If he's getting talked up in other places, he will definitely get some ownership on. But we'll get into it when we get there. But that's a really good spot. Casey Mize has a 2-start week this week, one against the Mariners in Seattle. Tons of strikeouts available there. He has not been a high strikeout pitcher. I'll talk about it when we get to the game. I'm going to pull up the pitchers. Maybe I'll talk about it there. On the Seattle side, Logan Gilbert went 7 in his first start of the season. He's got the Tigers under a 3-run total in a 6.5-run game. Love the upside on the Gilbert side. He's just very expensive. Guardians at the Padres. It's Logan Allen on the hill for the Guardians. 4.25 implied total with some upside for more for the Padres, kind of like their offense. And the Guardians kind of suppressed. Michael King on the mound for San Diego. 3.34 implied total for Cleveland. Cubbies coming right back. 4.30 implied total for them. They're going up against Luis Severino. I'm going to like that team basically all year long as they're healthy. So we're going to continue going to the well. They project out pretty decently. Not as good as yesterday, but they exploded yesterday. So I think we can mine that for some offense. I still do like that Oakland team overall, but Justin Steele is pretty good and good at suppressing power. Don't know that this is the day to get sneaky with the Athletics. And then Chris Sale on the mound for the Braves. Disappointed in us in his first outing. Difficult throwing him up against the Dodgers at price, but it is Chris Sale. We'll get into it when we get there. 3.57 and a 4.0 implied total, though, for those two teams. Not exactly super high totals. Dustin May making his first start for the Dodgers. Pitching board. All right, so as stated, I'm really kind of undercutting innings for Chad Patrick, who did pitch an inning in relief just on Saturday. Shane Smith, who's making his debut for the White Sox, and then Thomas Harrington. Part of that is just how they project as kids, just with their minor league numbers essentially, and then a little bit mixed in from their projected season numbers. How that projects out against these major league teams already kind of undercut their innings. And I just don't expect these kids to go out there unless, a Harrington, let's say, as their third overall prospect. If he comes out, he's lights out, he's striking guys out, maybe he gets a little bit of length. So these could be maybe a little artificially low. I'll give it some more thought during the day. Maybe they go up. I don't think any of these guys really, and Kyle Hendricks isn't even included in that conversation, but any of these three bottom end guys, I really don't see getting aggressively into like this kind of territory, even as far as projections go. And I would want them there to really consider them even at price as value darts. Anybody seeing these guys wildly different as far as what their upside looks like, as far as pitch count today, or anybody seeing them wildly differently projected at other sites? I'm kind of curious. There's a little bit of a question mark on the three of them. Not a one of them is in a good matchup, though. Harrington facing the Rays in Tampa Bay. Patrick against Kansas City, Shane Smith against Minnesota, and then again, the corpse of Kyle Hendricks. Also not a big Trevor Williams fan, and Toronto's drawing a little bit of offensive upside like we just looked at. Liberator against a scuffling so far in 4 games that don't, the sample size doesn't really matter. Not wild about the Liberator option. Wisniewski, I'd rather have the Giants upside. Maybe we could get into some Michael Lorenzen. He at least projects okay. Logan Allen, not really against the low strikeout Padres. Maybe we get away with some Simeon Woods-Richardson, but now we're already up to 86.78 across sites and still kind of a mid-board projection. So you can see the guys I'm building my way up to. They're right there. Luis Severino, you can roll the dice a little bit with. I don't love that spot, though, going up against the white-hot Cubs offense. Sevy's good, not great. Can have his really bad spots. There's a little bit of upside, but not definitely on FanDuel at 9. Feels really aggressive against a team that's good at getting on base, has a lot of power in the lineup. It's shaky. 83 more playable on DK. Dustin May is potentially interesting. 82.81 is a very fair price. He's got great stuff, potentially high strikeout, a lot of strikeouts available in that Atlanta lineup like we've looked at. So Dustin May's on the board for sure. Sevy's on the board, but don't love it. Shane Baz against the Pirates, I can definitely see. 85 on FanDuel, I'll probably have a few shares. 8,000 on DraftKings, pretty good price. That could be a decent strikeout spot. This one projects out all right because Will Warren, I do think, is going to be good. He's got some solid season-long projections. He had an electric spring. I just hate that spot against Arizona in Yankee Stadium today. So while I think we can play that Will Warren spot, 7,300, 6,800, I don't love it. I'd rather take Casey Mize at 78. He projects out a little bit better. 7,500 on the DraftKings site. He's a little bit more expensive on both, but I think it's worth making that pivot. And if the field's not going that direction, and that's not to say the field's going to Will Warren, But I just checked, and according to those numbers, Casey Mize, not going to be super popular. Love that spot. Jose Barrios, not a big fan. Kind of lean Washington in that spot, but he projects out like Jose Barrios, 88, 84. I don't love it, but he's very playable. Logan Webb, definitely playable, but again, don't like throwing pitchers, even talented pitchers like that, into that Astros lineup. Corbin Burns probably could find some upside against my free swinging Yankees. That said, if the Yanks connect, we know the ball travels. Sale against the Dodgers is just a price issue on FanDuel at 10-2. He's only 8,800 though on DraftKings. That's really playable on this board. He comps well with Corbin Burns, Logan Webb, Justin Steele, Michael King above him. So no issues there. Steele really looks strong, 8,200 on DraftKings, fully, more stretched out than anybody else essentially. It's his third full start. Pitched in the Tokyo series, made a start to start the domestic regular season. Oh, totally, Ricky. Yeah, none of those guys on the Yankees ever did anything until the other day when those bats arrived. Totally. Same with Elliot De La Cruz. His 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. That couldn't possibly have happened without that bat. I'm already so sick of the torpedo bat discussion. I put on MLB Central, and it was just like, they mentioned it 11 times in 3 minutes until I muted the TV. So, yeah, Steele up at the top of the board. 87, I feel like, is a little bit light going up against Oakland on FanDuel. And 82 is definitely light on DraftKings. So that looks like a really good buy to me. I would expect he's going to be pretty popular there. Michael King, 95-87, taking a mulligan on his first start. Didn't go so well. But going up against a now fairly high strikeout but powerful Cleveland lineup, really like the ceiling for him. And then love Logan Gilbert up at the top of the board again, keeping the Tigers under a 3-run implied total is dynamite. 10-6, 9,000. Happy to pay it. He's a fantastic pitcher. He went 7 in his debut. Dennis says, can you go over why 4-3-1 has become the default on FanDuel over a 4-4 stacks besides wanting to play a pitcher from one of the stacks? So 4-3-1, 4-4 have always been essentially the two defaults to me, so that's not really a change. 4-3-1 was always my preferred stack because I think you can get, lopping off the 8th man in a 4-4 in preference of taking a star one-off who's not necessarily highly owned. Gives you a projection boost, gives you a differentiator if you're chasing differentiation in that spot, if you're chasing leverage in that spot when you make that one-off decision. And the way that I end up playing that a lot, I feel like, is taking a cheaper pitcher and paying up in the one-off and doing it kind of like I was describing. You can do it the other way where you're paying up a pitcher and you're just taking a discount one-off rather than a guy who's like, the cleanup hitter in whatever stack you're using. I just feel like it's always given you a lot more flexibility. That's been my preferred build. That's been my more common winning build as well on FanDuel over the years. That's not to say I don't use 4-4. I very aggressively do use 4-4. Those are my two go-tos. The one I've dabbled with a little bit more last year and then the start of this year is like 3-3-2 kind of builds or 3-3 and then 2 open spots, which I think is also effective for all those same reasons. But it just lets you, take the meat of a stack and then pile a good guy on top of it is essentially, my thinking. And you can get deeper into the numbers of it through sims and all of that. But just to, kind of surface level the answer, I just think it's about that additional flexibility of build. It makes it easy to differentiate. And again, in baseball, we're not as worried because there's so many combinations through these lineups and through stacks and everything that I really don't sweat differentiation all that much. Once I'm 1 or 2 bats away, we're perfectly fine. Ricky said Ellie ran faster with the torpedo bat too. Somebody had a cute tweet that was kind of like an obvious joke that I didn't see a lot, and I was like, clever, well done. Somebody said, I can't wait to see a torpedo bat against a submarine pitcher. But should have been like somebody's first response, and I saw it like 2 days later it came out. Anyway, let's dive on in. So Will Warren, 6,800, 7,300. Love the price. Projects out okay for this spot. He was dynamite through spring. Converted reliever. Made 5 starts last year, 22 and 2/3. High ERA. Decent stuff plus mark in that tiny sample. High walk rate, but he's a decent strikeout pitcher already. And again, the stuff was really, really working for him in the spring. So I'm excited to see him. I just hate this matchup right out of the gate for him. Even as a value guy, 426 implied total in Yankee Stadium on a relatively warm day. It's mid-50s. Not crazy warm, but not crazy cold either. You can get some 30-degree March and April days. And just look at those home run totals that are popping on the Diamondback side. 4 guys above the magic number. Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suarez, Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte. 8.55 on Lourdes Gurriel. I just don't love it. Pavin Smith off to a hot start with the bat down lineup. Gabriel Moreno, a good hitting catcher. It's just a really good Diamondbacks team. And it's a hitter-friendly park. So while I'm excited about Will Warren for the season, he's on most of my season-long teams where I've got starting pitchers. This doesn't feel like the right spot. I think he's playable, but like bottom of the barrel, borderline playable. You can get away with him, but I wouldn't really push him. Corbin Burns on the other side, I think there's a lot of upside there. 8,600 especially. That is a light price. On FanDuel 97, you're basically paying full freight. Got out to 20 hitters in his last spring start. That was back on the 21st, went 2 2/3 and kind of melted down. Gave up 11 hits, 7 earned runs, struck out 5 over that, didn't walk anybody. Had gone 4 innings, faced 15 hitters in each of the 2 starts before that. Little bit of work in since then. So presumably, relatively fair innings, even 5 and change. The Yankees have a good amount of strikeouts. A lot of guys work through the mid-20s, most of their key hitters. Cody Bellinger helps lower this average down to 23, as does Oswaldo Cabrera at the bottom of the lineup, a totally non-threatening hitter. But we'll leave Cabrera in there, but let's just discounting Belly. Now we're already 24-2. And if you lop that one off, the key hitters in the lineup, it's essentially a 25% strikeout rate. So you're looking at 1 in 4 upside for Corbin Burns. He worked last year at 23-1, the year before at 25-5. Prior to that was a 30% strikeout guy. But the swinging strikes are still there, 12.9% swinging strikes last year. Electric stuff. Doesn't really allow too much in terms of hard hits, exit velocity, power. Limits home runs under 3%. 2 years running at exactly 2.81 with low 30s hard hits, mid 80s exit velocity. This is a star pitcher on the mound. Let's not forget how good he is. So too cheap here and a playable matchup. It's a threatening Yankees team. We've seen them explode for offense. What do they have? 32 runs in their last 2 games? Like 12 home runs? So you're not safe. But if you're going to take on the Yankees, Corbin Burns is one of the guys you want to be doing it with. And again, plenty of strikeout upside. Would play him on FanDuel at 97, appealing at 86 on DraftKings. Pull the chat back up over here. Say hello in the chat if you're out there, by the way. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Check out rotoscouts.com. So, good bats on either side of this one. I don't love drawing against Corbin Burns. Probably as one-offs is where I would look at some Yankees. Like Aaron Judge, obviously, you can get to as a one-off 5,000, 6,300. Might be a day where he's a little bit less popular. 4 home runs already on this season, a 1.273 ISO, a 5.34 WRC plus. He's been 434% better than average at creating runs over the first 3 games of the season. But it's a star-studded lineup, top to bottom, or 1 through 7 anyway. I'll give Volpe and Dominguez a little bit of credit down there. Ben Rice has pop in the bat at the bottom. The only guy really not much of a hitter is whoever's going to be manning third base every day. Ozzy Cabrera, not much of a hitter. Can get involved with some base hits and score some runs every now and then and contribute in a stack, but not much of a hitter. Just a versatile guy who can play basically every position on the field. So they keep him in the lineup, and he's seeing plate appearances right now because they need bodies at third base. Pablo Reyes is another option at third base. Made a couple errors in the gigantic game the other day. Didn't do anything with the bat, which is what he would be there for theoretically. And then Oswald Peraza, a former top prospect for this team who just barely made the team by the skin of his teeth. We'll see what happens. But that's kind of a weak spot at the bottom. But a 1 through 8 power hitting lineup for sure for the Yanks. So you can stack this Yankees team even against Corbin Burnes. And again, you might get them a little bit lighter. But he is suppressing power for basically everybody not named Aaron Judge here. Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt in the mid-5s, Jazzy at 6.33. Love the upside for any of those guys as an individual. Any guy on any given slate. And they're not unfairly priced. So again, more about the one-offs or just super contrarian stacks with the Yankees. Austin Wells in the leadoff role I like. 2 home runs already on this season. He can get on base. He's got a good eye at the plate. It's not inappropriate to have him in the leadoff spot. They've had Goldie up there a couple times already this season. Again, another guy, decent enough eye, decent enough at getting on base. So not ridiculous. Also, obviously, good amount of power upside. Torpedo bat. Jazz Chisholm, torpedo bat. Out to a great start with 3 homers for him as well. Look at all these home runs. That's 14 homers. On the Diamondback side, again, we're looking at the obvious stack that's just kind of staring us in the face with those 4 guys that are in double digits, and then Lourdes Gurriel is your 5th man, and it's not even that expensive. It's not free, but under 5,000, 4,900, and you're getting a star in each spot. 2 superstars and 3 like B pluses. That's a pretty good spot. Going up against Will Warren, who again, really good spring, but we don't have anything to say that he's going to knock this team out. So kind of interested in some Diamondbacks here for all the people who say I'm a Yankees fan and can't be trusted in this sort of thing. I'm going to have some Diamondbacks bats for sure. Corbin Carroll hitting the ball a little bit, getting on base to start the season over 18 plate appearances. Obviously had the half and half season where he was dead and then he was best player in baseball for a while. Ketel Marte, top second baseman in baseball. No home runs on the season in his 21 plate appearances. We'll get a bunch of them. Don't worry about it. 145 WRC plus. He's been effective to start the year. Lourdes Gurriel, 1 home run on the season. A very effective hitter with mid-grade power. 279, 322, 435 with a 108 WRC plus last year, 18 home runs, 24 homers the year before with a pretty effective slash line at 201 ISO. Truth's probably somewhere in between. I included Lourdes in the waiver wire pickups article this week because owned in like 60% of Yahoo leagues. But he's like if your outfielder that you drafted got hurt, this is a guy who could have been drafted in your league and you should pick him up as the replacement. He's like that caliber of a fantasy player. But as a 3-hitter in this lineup in a good spot, I love including him. 4,100, 3,000. He's too cheap for his talent. Josh Naylor, tons of power upside, lefty in Yankee Stadium. Like the home run upside for Josh Naylor here. 10.29 in the home run model. Hasn't hit one on the season, but he's been getting on base. He's been involved. 188 WRC plus is tops among the top 4 hitters in this team. Junior Suarez out of the gate like wildfire. 4 home runs already on the season. A 287 WRC plus, an 857 ISO for him so far. Eugenio is the home run pick of the day. I like him to get number 5 in Yankee Stadium today against Will Warren. I'm not a hot and cold guy. Streaks looking backward in time statistically are obviously a thing, but there's no such thing as you are hot. There's no such thing as hot, right? But Eugenio Suarez is hot. So he's a player who has just been that kind of guy on and off throughout his career. The switch is on or the lights are kind of off. Right now the lights are on, so it's working well. That doesn't have much bearing on this. The numbers are just putting him where he needs to be today. Jake McCarthy hasn't done much to start the season, but he's an effective low strikeout bat, gets involved by getting on base, helping create runs. Gabriel Moreno does have a little bit of power, and he's affordable at the catcher spot, just 3,000. Puts good bat on ball, 40+% hard hit rate the last couple of seasons while striking out just 14.8% of the time and drawing walks, so he gets on base. Really like the upside for Gabriel Moreno in the long term. Pavin Smith, a guy who's always been good at putting the bat on the ball. Another guy who doesn't really strike out much, draws a ton of walks in his limited samples. 14.7% barrels, 44% hard hits in 158 plate appearances last year. Put 9 home runs on the board in the show. Getting a little bit more of an opportunity now. I would really like this player if they ever gave him a full-time job. It's going to be in the lineup like 75% of the time this year. And then Geraldo Perdomo is a effective enough wraparound guy who gets on base, can be included from down here to cheapen up the top end stack if you want to. Out to an okay start. He's got a stolen base on the board. 86 WRC plus. The WRC plus can come and go with his on base percentage. Last year, 344 on base over 388 plate appearances. Creator runs 1% better than average. Every now and then he can poke one into the stands too. Diamondbacks bats. Corbin Burns. Yankees bats. Will Warren. Everything's playable. Will Warren's just clinging to playability, though, with the way that the Diamondbacks are grading out here. All right, Thomas Harrington. He was a compensation round pick, 36th overall in 2022 for the Pirates. So that's wedged between the first and second round, essentially. In 23, he went from A ball to high A. 127 and a third total innings over 26 starts, 3.53 ERA with a 4.17 xFIP. Followed that up last year. Started the season with one outing, or maybe that was midseason to rehab something. I'm not sure. Most of his work was AA and then made 8 starts in AAA. 21 starts in total, 117 and a third innings, 2.61 ERA with a 3.76 xFIP. Was effective at limiting runs. 25.1% strikeout rate over that full sample, 4.1% walk rate. So pretty potentially strong strikeout to walk. The one concerning thing that I would point out is that went from 27.4% strikeouts at AA. When he got the promotion, those 8 starts in AAA, the strikeout rate dipped to 21.2%. So against stronger, more developed competition, he did take a little bit of a dip for Ks. The Rays, again, drawing the highest implied total of the day, the highest implied total we've seen on a main slate so far, over 5 runs. Probably going Rays here. Didn't give Harrington too much credit for innings. Again, part of that was what came through the model anyway. And then part of it was me just saying we're probably not getting overly aggressive with this kid today. 7,400 doesn't project well. 6,800, I don't think even as a value dart you go there. I do think you can play the Rays bats, though. Usual suspects over the magic number in the home run model. Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero. That's not going to change for most of the season. Lau's got 1 on the board. Only 2 home runs so far for this projected starting lineup. But there are bats that we like here. There's also bats on the Pirates side. They're going to be facing Shane Baz, though. Baz in his first start of the season. Last year, 79 and a third over 14 starts. 3.06 ERA with a 4.39 xFIP. 21.6% strikeouts. He's all right. He's got more upside than that. If we look in... I got to put the totals on the board here. 10 AAA starts last year, in addition to those starts in the show. 24.7% strikeout rate, but walked too many. Missed the 2023 season. Back in 2022, 6 starts in the show, 25.6% strikeout rate. And then in the... Was that all the work we had in 22 as well? 4 starts in AAA in 22. And then you had 78 innings of work in AA, AAA back all the way to 2021. And he was an elite strikeout pitcher then. In that sample, 37.9% Ks, 4.4% walks. We've just lost a lot of development time with Shane Baz. We've lost a lot of experience aggregation with him. Still only 25 and change, going to turn 26 mid-season. So there's still plenty of time. And there's upside here going up against a Pirates team with plenty of strikeouts in it. I just don't love the upside for depth. I think they get 5 here and a decent outing. They're perfectly happy going to the pen. It's just kind of how the Rays are going to operate anyway. So I think he's loosely playable with upside that could kick up into the 30-point range, the 15-point range on DraftKings if he picks up a couple extra strikeouts along the way. So I think he's perfectly fine, but not somebody I'm really, really going to chase. I do think you could play the Pirates back the other way, too. Tommy Pham, Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz off the top. Joey Bart, I think, is a very playable catcher option. McCutcheon, Brian Hayes, we've talked about at length already. But there's options in that Pirates stack, and they're not expensive outside of O'Neal Cruz, who's justifiably expensive. Even Brian Reynolds on FanDuel, just 31. That's a great price for Brian Reynolds. I don't care about these 24 plate appearances that have been pretty bad. 52 is pretty much correct on DraftKings. This is a very playable stack. Definitely the one about slapping Chris Rock. It's the only one I'm aware of. But yeah, I guess Will had some things he needed to get out about the response to him slapping Chris Rock, apparently. Apparently one of the lyrics is that he's banned from the Oscars, which he is not. Or he agreed not to go for 10 years, but that's what it was. He says in the song that they took his Oscar away, which they did not. Which is like, he's just making shit up. Like, all right, whatever. Wait, hot hand is not real. Yep, turns out. So, yeah, we're looking at Pirates to get into a little bit of the details. Pham, not a great start, but at least he's running a little bit. 2 stolen bases. This team is going to be running all season long. You can see all the stolen base totals they're already racking up. They don't do a whole hell of a lot, so they need to create havoc out there and score runs however they can. Last season, they didn't run probably as much as they're going to be this year. So I expect some upside there. Pham's going to be a part of that. Last year, 478 plate appearances. He only hit 9 home runs, 7 stolen bases. This is a guy we're accustomed to seeing in like the mid-teens, 20-plus stolen bases like this over the years. Might be just toward the back end at this point with Tommy Pham. But I do think there is counting stat upside. I think there's any given slate upside. And as long as he continues to hit for a cheap price at the top of the lineup ahead of Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz, I think you can play him. You can bolt him onto a stack. Reynolds at 52, perfectly fine. Last year, 9.6 on the barrels, 45.2% hard hits. Had an effective enough season. Another very Brian Reynolds-y kind of year. 24 homers, 10 steals. An effective 118 WRC plus. A little bit of a dip in the ISO overall, but the triple slash was fine. O'Neal Cruz is a superstar, just waiting to happen. 200, 429, 400, 200 ISO to start the year over 21 plate appearances. Again, nothing I say about this year matters at all. 5 stolen bases on the season already. Out of the gate, pretty good in that department. I love him to get over 25 home runs. I love him to get over, 30-something stolen bases at least. And I really think that those totals could go quite a bit higher. Kid crushes the ball when he makes contact. I've been raving about him since the start of the season. I've been writing about him on the site when we've talked season-long stuff. Get some O'Neal Cruz in your life if you're going Pirates. Joey Bart is cheap for the quality of contact. 9.4% barrels, not nothing last season. Had a little bit of a breakout, finally won a full-time job. I like him at that price, hitting in the middle of the lineup if you're going Pirates on DraftKings. As a one-off catcher, he's at least okay at that price. 6.45 in the home run model. Gives you a little bit of upside. McCutch, a little bit of power, a little bit of on base, more a just playable part if you're stacking Pirates. Hayes, not much of a bat, drives the ball effectively, but just never sees anything for it, which is a problem. He's a great defender at third base. Andy Rodriguez, kind of interesting, kind of cheap, catcher and first base eligible. Hasn't done anything in 16 plate appearances, not much experience, but there is pedigree there as a prospect. Adam Frazier and IKF entirely skippable at the bottom of the lineup. If you're playing an abundance of Pirates lineups, you can include them for differentiation. Either guy is capable of creating a run or two at the major league level. Neither guy is overly appealing. Johnny Diaz is very appealing. Gets on base like crazy. Love him hitting ahead of Brandon Lau and Junior Caminero. That's a great combination to have behind him. Look at all the barrels. Look at all the hard hits. Caminero just coming into his own. Had a great spring. Last year in 177 plate appearances, 6 home runs, a 176 ISO, 105 WRC plus. It's an effective cup of coffee. You know, you start your career this way. It's not exactly what he was hoping for, I'm sure, as one of the top prospects in baseball and a kid who's just going to rip the cover off the ball. But it's okay. He was a positive run creator. That's all you want. Love the upside for this kid this season. 5,100 is fair on DraftKings, but it's aggressive to put him there already. 2,900, much more like it on FanDuel. The Rays are going to be popular today on FanDuel. Between this 5-run total and these cheap prices, this is going to be a ludicrously owned team. But deservingly so, again, against that run total, against a rookie pitcher making his debut, it's a good spot. in Steinbrenner Field, which if you weren't here yesterday, same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. Right now I've got park factors essentially set to be Yankee Stadium, but as soon as it warms up in Florida, the ball's going to sail out of this park. But we're going to like Brandon Lau here taking shots at that short porch and right all season long. Love the power upside in that ballpark. And the fact that you can take just Diaz, Lau, and Caminero for an average of 3,000. They're three best players, and then you just get cheaper. I would kind of lean Chris Morel out of who's projected here. 2,600, that brings you down to 29. You can put him at three different positions, which is good because two of them conflict with the two guys up there, so I guess you're sticking them in the outfield. You've got Jake Magnum down here at the dead min. He got involved yesterday, 2 stolen bases. Put up a decent score. He's off to a decent start here. Not much of a player, not much of a prospect, looking at his season-long projections. But things can change rapidly. Misner, Danny Jansen, Caballero kind of drags down the overall total in terms of the fantasy point total. This one goes for the top 7 guys. You can see the difference in the average that you get once you factor those bottom few guys in. So it cuts into it a little bit projection-wise, but if the lineup's rolling, if they're sequencing, if they're turning things over, any one of these guys down here can get involved. Magnum's been involved. Caballero's been involved to start the season. He also had a good season last year with 44 stolen bases. Wasn't good for run creation, but in a fantasy sense, 9 home runs, 44 steals out of a dirt cheap middle infielder that you could put at any spot. It's fine. A lot of playability here. Rays easily top of the list in this game, and one of the top overall stacks of the day, but going to be super, super popular. Then it's probably Shane Baz. Then it's Pirates Bats, and Thomas Harrington I don't think we go to here. $158 already. Okay. If you're looking for the NBA and NHL projections, they will be done after this show and up on the site. I got them done at a decent pace yesterday. The NBA ones actually can get done quickly enough to get the first, the rough cut up there, and then I loop back and refine and just tweak some minutes and everything here and there. But I can get through them and get them up on the site quick enough. But we got to talk a little bit fast. Hit the like button, subscribe, rotoscouts.com. Access to all of that, plus baseball projections under $1 a day for all of it. Give it a look. Really like this Nats lineup this year. I'm going to keep talking about it until it really comes true. They've gotten out to an okay start. Some home runs on the board. Nathaniel Lowe out to a nice start for this new team of his. Really like that pickup for them. I've been talking about it. I think he helps these kids just by virtue of his ability to get on base. And if his power comes back to life, he had 27 home runs a couple years ago. Could be a big, big bump for these kids. Really like C.J. Abrams and his talent. We've had him for a little bit. James Wood made his debut last year, had an effective start to his career, off to a decent start over 17 this year. The one who's really scuffling is Dylan Cruz, the big first-round pick from a couple years ago, taking number 2. Paul Skeens' teammate, taking number 2 after him. 16-week plate appearances this year. Wasn't great in his cup of coffee last year. 132, 3 home runs, 12 steals is good, but just an 80 WRC plus. Didn't really drive the ball. 218, 288, 353. A little problematic for Dylan Cruz so far. It could behoove the Nationals to just send him down, give him more development, but I think they're just going for the develop at the major league level kind of plan here. They're not expecting to go out and compete for the division or anything right now, so they're just letting him come along at his pace, but while facing major league pitching. We've seen that work. We've seen that go bust in the past, so we'll find out. But I do like the quality of this lineup. I think Josh Bell, not a superstar, not a star, but a solid B in terms of a major league hitter. Get on base. He can drive the ball effectively. He can hit you 20 home runs in a season. He's never expensive. So he's very playable for DFS purposes. He's a switch hitter, so he's always going to be in the heart of the lineup. I don't love that he's a positional conflict with Nathaniel Lowe right now. That's a problem on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel. But I like that upside that either one of those guys gives you in the heart of the lineup. Keibert Ruiz, 2 home runs on the board already this season, which is nice to see. He hit 18 a couple years ago despite really weak contact, low barrel rates, but his high contact rate, the frequency with which the bat connects to the ball, is outstanding. 11% strikeouts with 3% walks last year, 10% and 5%. So just bat on ball. If I can get plate appearances plus bat on ball, I'm halfway there for what we need in fantasy. Then we just need those balls to either drop in or go over the fence. But that's at least half the equation. 3,600 where you need to play catchers, it's not bad. The reason I started on the national side, they're going up against Jose Barrios. If you've been a fan of this show over the years, or me going back to Awesome or whatever, you know I am not a fan of this pitcher. I think he's decidedly average. Had a very average outing in his first start. Every now and then, he'll break off a really strong start. That's what average pitchers do. That's how you end up, some good, some bad, and then a bunch of mediocre ones in the middle. First outing, he faced 24 Orioles. He gave up 6 earned runs, 3 home runs, 5 strikeouts, walked 2. We're obviously not, box score watching. That doesn't determine his fate for today. And the Nationals quite a bit worse than the Orioles. But we're talking about a pitcher who in 32 starts last year, he's just an overrated guy. 32 starts last year, 192 and a third innings, 19.5% strikeouts. The walks are low, 6.9%. That's fine. But a 3.94% home run rate? 4 is our emergency number. So that's pretty high. 92 rating by Stuff Plus, so we're talking about well below average stuff. Just a 9% swinging strike rate. 2023 was decent. This was his basically career year at this point. 189 and 2/3. He struck out 23.5%. 3.65 ERA, a 4.01 xFIP. Still a 3.20% home run rate and 11% swinging strike rate is fine, but a lot of guys do that. Year before was back to same numbers as 2024. He's okay, but I definitely think you could target some Jose Barrios. Nats coming in at 3.85 implied total probably keeps him a little bit under the radar. And there's some interesting bats there. Primary options in a stack for me is definitely C.J. Abrams, James Wood off the top. And then, really any of those. Any few of those guys, depending on your site. And honestly, there's a lot of playability in Paul DeJong, Dylan Cruz, and Jacob Young at the bottom of the lineup. Right? Young stole 33 bases last year, despite getting on at just a 316 clip. 85 WRC plus, doesn't have much power to speak of. But at least you get some fantasy counting stats as a cheap wraparound back up to the top of the lineup, where you get C.J. Abrams and all his speed, his power upside. It's a dynamic lineup. So there's a lot of good reason to play this team, especially if they're a little bit off the public radar. Luis Garcia Jr. had a breakout season last year. Doesn't really strike out, doesn't walk a ton, so again, another guy putting a lot of bat on ball. Last year, 282, 318, 444, created runs 11% better than average and stole 22 bags while hitting 18 home runs. That's fantastic for 3,300, 2,900 at second base against Jose Barrios. Nats could potentially be interesting. I'll probably have a little bit, at least as a value mixer. You can roll the dice with Jose Barrios. It's not like he projects poorly. Right? 8,800, 28-point projection puts him, top 5? Top 7. But basically tied with Casey Mize, tied with Logan Webb, just off the cusp of Chris Sale and Corbin Burns. Especially for tournaments, if he's not popular, you can go that direction. I don't want to sound too both sidesy. I'm always anti Jose Barrios though, but there's playability there in a fantasy points for the money kind of a sense, and he won't, I'm sure, be crazy owned. The Nats are not a great strikeout target though. I'll throw that onto the fire there. Paul DeJong you can definitely get for strikeouts. James Wood you can definitely get for strikeouts. Everybody else pretty limiting. So even that undercuts Barrios. On the national side, Trevor Williams on the mound making his 2025 debut. Last season, 13 starts, 66 and 2/3, 22.7% Ks. A 2.03 ERA is pretty sparkling, but an xFIP approaching 4 is probably the more correct number. He was good at avoiding barrels. Hard hits, kind of hard hits are there. He was giving up just under our threshold. Same thing with exit velo, but managed to keep home runs off the board, just 1.15% home run rate. Spring starts, the last 2, both against Houston. He got out to 5 innings in both, faced 20 and 22 hitters, gave up 2 earned runs in both, struck out 7 in one, struck out 6 in another. So we're talking about decent pitch count there. We're talking about relatively stretched out. 2 seasons back, just a 16.8% strikeout rate. Season before that, 22.6%. I would expect something like the low 20s strikeout rate that we've seen 2 out of the last 3 seasons from him. over the course of time. 7,000, 8,000 going up against a relatively low strike or an aggressively low strikeout Blue Jays team. I really don't like this spot for Trevor Williams. Fairly low projection even for the money, even as a discount SP2 type on DraftKings. 8,000, I'm really not interested in that FanDuel projection. Blue Jays drawing a 4.75 implied total against. 2 guys over the magic number for power upside. I think we're going Blue Jays bats, if anything, on this one. Vladdy, decent production yesterday. I think he had an RBI double, put up a half a home run value, but I had him as the home run pick yesterday. Another one missed, but going through the team by team ones, we're hitting those. Just got to get one on the board to start the season here with the main picks. We'll get one. Again, today it's Eugenio Suarez. Really like my chances. But Vladdy, superstar. Hasn't hit one yet. It's imminent. Had a great year last year. Anthony Santander is a perfect acquisition for power for this team. Switch hitter. Love him hitting behind Vladdy. Andres Jimenez has been their hottest hitter to start the season, though. 3 home runs on the board already. 333, 455, 944. We've talked about him a few times already this season as we've talked about the Blue Jays. Hasn't flashed much power at the major league level. He did hit 15 2 years ago, 17 the year before that. But the prospect profile was for even more power than that. And it really dipped last year. Just 9 last season, went all the way down to a .087 ISO. And even in the years where he was hitting home runs, just a 147 ISO in 23, a 169 ISO back in 22. If the powers come around, this could be a really good pickup for them because he's always been decent with the bat, good hit tool. He's got a little bit of speed, sharp infielder, 30 stolen bases last year while getting on at just a 298 clip. So if he sees that go up a little bit by just striking the ball better and getting on base more, it could be really interesting because he doesn't strike out, puts a lot of bat on ball. That impacts the on base, obviously, because he doesn't walk that much. But really like the start for Andres Jimenez. So you include him in a Blue Jay stack. He helps cheapen things up, too. That 4-man start on DK is $48.75 a piece once you average him in. And then if you're throwing, let's say, probably grab the catcher. $3,100 on Leandro Kirk gets you down to $45. Not a bad price for a 5-man. On FanDuel, similar. $33. That's about right. I wouldn't say that's cheap for that group of guys. Bo Bichette, strong start to his season over 22 plate appearances. Again, if you're just walking in the door, nothing about this year so far matters at all. Just putting it there to have it to talk about. But last year, dead half a season from Bo Bichette. But prior to that, this is a star caliber player. 20 home runs, /306, 339, 475. Creator runs 25% better than average 2 years ago. I expect that's the Bo Bichette we'll get back, and it looks like it out of the gate here. Kirk is fine, 40+% hard hit rate last year, doesn't really strike out, does draw walks, 13.2% Ks last year with a 9.1% walk, 10 and 10 the year before. So definitely a guy you can expect to be involved. He'll hit you the occasional home run. He's perfectly fine as a filler, much, much better to use him on DraftKings where you need catchers, though. George Springer, if he shows any life this season, that'll also help this lineup. It really deepens it. So we started the season, I was saying, it's really like the 3 guys at the top, really top-heavy lineup. But if we get a lot out of him, and then if we get anything out of him, it definitely stretches this to a much more playable team overall. $4,200 for George Springer's history is a very cheap price. $3,000 is affordable, but it's not as cheap relatively, I don't think, as the 42 on DraftKings. Even in his down season last year, he still hit 19 home runs, stole 16 bases. It's just that's not what we expect from George Springer. He's 21-20 the year before that, 25-14 the year before that one, monster WRC plus that year. We've been trending downward, and last year was problematic overall. But from a fantasy perspective, if you had him in your lineups, if you had him every day, you probably lost. But if you had him here and there on sharp days, you could have gotten there with George Springer shares last year. So I think for cheap, we can definitely go back. His start to the season hasn't been bad. He's got a stolen base on the board, which is nice to see him running. 471 on base to start the year. Again, these are meaningless numbers. Will Wagner, Nathan Lukes, Alan Roden. Mix and match guys down the bottom of the lineup to help cheapen things up if you need to. There's a little bit of pop in those bats. Don't have much at the major league level to talk about. Lukes and Wagner. Last season in minor cups of coffee, 86 plate appearances and 91 plate appearances. Both put up very effective slash lines. Both were positive run creators. 2 home runs, 1 home run in the small samples. So again, not nothing from the lefties down the bottom of the lineup. If they shake things up, rather than having 3 lefties in a row down here, maybe you move Kirk down, move Springer up, move one of these guys up into between those guys to just lefty-righty it a little bit better. Still creates the same distribution. You can still, use all those guys in basically that same setup. Or like that same level of preference. Blue Jays bats. Nationals bats. Jose Barrios. And really no Trevor Williams. And I won't have much Jose Barrios. I like the Nats bats quite a bit better than I like Jose Barrios. Michael Lorenzen, Chad Patrick. So Chad Patrick's got an inning pitched. That came against the Yankees the other day in relief. He gave up 2 home runs? 1 home run? Where is it? Oh, did I not grab that board? It really doesn't matter. The thing that I think is interesting about that is that it probably just means we're getting him for 3 and change, 4 innings at most. I don't really see them stretching him out here. One home run, walked 1, struck out 1, 2 earned runs allowed on 2 hits, faced 6 hitters in 1 inning. So maybe a minor impact there to his overall ceiling. And then if you look at spring training, 3 1/3 was his biggest start. He faced 15 hitters in that outing. Or that's his biggest outing. It wasn't even a start. He made 1 start, went 1 inning, so that was just kind of an opening appearance. So he's going to be bouncing probably. I don't fully know his role. Yeah, he's so irrelevant that he didn't make the team. He was optioned on March 9th to AAA, and then they essentially recalled him when they broke camp. So at the major league level, I don't know that there's much there. Looking at minor league numbers, last year, his first year in the Brewers system, 24 starts, 136 and a third, 2.90 ERA, but a 4.43 xFIP. Did strike out 26.1, walked 7%, and was like a mid-20 strikeout guy in a couple seasons of minor league work coming up through the levels from starting in 2021 with Arizona and then Oakland for a little bit. Just not a lot of meat on the bone here. So I really think it just feeds into the upside for Kansas City bats. You can see some power flashing with the usual suspects around Bobby Witt, around Vinny Pasquantino, Sal Perez, who got 1 on the board yesterday. This is a good Royals team. They've got power. They've got the ability to get on base this year. They've got some speed. Michael Garcia out to a great start with 2 home runs already this season and hopefully cementing his place in the regular starting lineup. And then Michael Lorenzen, pitcher that we've got a little bit more to work with. 130 and a third last year in 24 starts. 18.1% strikeouts against 11.2% walks. That is entirely unsustainable. 3.31 ERA somehow, despite those numbers, but a 4.95 xFIP is the real number. 9.1% swinging. He's just not a very good pitcher. Similar numbers the year before. Allows a moderate 3 and change % home run rate. Several points below average by Stuff Plus. There's really not a lot to see. I think we're looking at Brewers bats. I think we're looking at Royals bats. Jonathan India took a ball off the head the other day. He wasn't in the lineup yesterday, right? Did they play yesterday? Whatever. If India's in the lineup, let's just do it that way. He's very, very playable. I talked about it to start the season. I loved this acquisition for them. 1, because he's an effective player for counting stats, home runs, and speed. But 2, he's very good at getting on base. And that's exactly what they lacked in the leadoff role when Michael was up there for most of the nearly 600 plate appearances he made last season, or 626, while getting on at a 281 clip. You cannot have that in the leadoff spot again ahead of Bobby Witt, just because he's fast. What I love about Michael is I think there's a lot of talent there. And we're seeing it so far. He's gotten on base at a 467 clip. Again, 15 plate appearances do not matter, but he's got 2 home runs on the board. He only hit 7 in 626 plate appearances last season. He hit 4 in 515 the year before. What I wrote about Michael in the waiver wire column this week, which when I recommended to pick him up, is that I'm optimistic based on the hard hit rates over the last couple seasons that he can start driving the ball a lot more effectively if he can find some launch and elevate the ball. We're talking about a really interesting hitter. He's already low strikeout, high frequency of contact. If he's getting on base with his skill set, sky's the limit if that bat comes around a little bit. And as I mentioned before, and I mentioned in that article, he's Ronald Acuna Jr.'s cousin. If everybody loves Luis Angel Acuna because he's his brother, well, it's a lot of guys from, I mentioned this last year. There was an article on, I want to say MLB.com, about the region in Venezuela that they come from. And it's like this fishing area on the coast. And there's like 15 guys from this small, not overly large population of people who have made it to the show from there. And it's like several members of the Acuna family, whether they're named Acuna or not, and then some other guys from around that area. It was just really interesting. So there's talent in Michael Garcia. I'm a believer. 2,800 at second and third, 3,900 at third. Definitely effectively priced. I think you can drop down here. The reason I talk about those two guys in tandem was one, like I said, India kind of replaced him at the top of the lineup and is a much better option in that spot. 474 on base over the first couple games, 357 last season with 15 homers, 13 steals. But if India doesn't play, maybe we get Michael back up in that spot. They didn't do that yesterday. Michael was hitting down here somewhere and had put a home run on the board. If India's there, you can easily go second base with him. I would probably prefer him at second to outfield. It's a good price to bolt onto a Bobby Witt share at 61.41. Helps average that down a little bit for you. Witt is a superstar. 3 stolen bases on the board this year. Hit 32 home runs, stole 31 bags last year. Created a run 68% better than average. 10 plus in the home run model is where we want him. Vinny Pasquantino, we've been raving about this hitter for a year plus, 2 years now. Puts frequent bat on ball with aggressive hard hit rates. Another guy who just needs to learn to elevate the ball just slightly more. And we're talking about a 30 home run bat. But this is a guy who just knocks runs in like crazy, sequences for this team like crazy. Very, very effective hitter in stacks. Sal Perez, excellent catcher option. Home run on the board already this season. 9 in the home run model today. We've seen tons and tons of homers out of Sal. While not really striking out that much, putting good bat on ball. 4,400 at catcher. Yes, please. Michael Massey, 4,000, 2,700, effectively priced left-handed second base option to throw up against a young, developing, questionable, potentially shaky right-handed pitcher. I think we could sign up for some Michael Massey shares. He's always put decent wood on the ball. 15% strikeout rate last season, 4.2% walks. Ended up with 14 home runs in just 356 plate appearances, a 190 ISO. That's an effective hitter over the long term. MJ Melendez, another guy who makes great contact. 45% hard hits last year, 49.6 the year before with an 11.4% barrel 2 years ago. Barrels went away a little bit last year for MJ. He strikes out at a pretty fair clip, but he did cut it by 3 percentage points last year. I like upside for MJ too. 7.3 in the home run model for only 3,300, 2,500. That's an effective left-handed power bat. And then Kevin Biggio and Kyle Isbell are spot fillers at the bottom. On the Brewers side, the higher implied total here goes to the home team. Again, Michael Lorenzen, perfectly gettable pitcher. If we're talking low strikeout rate guys too, you just know there's an abundance of contact. So like I was saying earlier when I was talking Keibert Ruiz, just give me plate appearances and contact, and we're halfway there. That bodes well for a guy like Bryce Turang, who just needs to get on base, use his wheels. He does have a little bit of power. He's got a home run on the board, but didn't make really good contact over the last couple seasons. So he's one of those guys that just benefits and dunks one into the stands from time to time, rather than being like a real home run hitter. What he needs to focus on is just reaching first base. 294 on base so far this year. Last year, 316. He hit 7 home runs, but he stole 50 bases. This is why I say he's got to get on base a little bit more. Putting him at the top of the lineup, if he can do that, ahead of Jackson Chourio, Christian Yelich, William Contreras, gives you a dynamite top 4. Chourio, off to a weak start, over 19 plate appearances. Don't sweat it. I'm not worried about the sophomore slump. There's too much talent there. Kid had a monster year last year in his rookie season, and I like him to exceed those numbers. 21 home runs, 22 steals, 275, 327, 464. Created a run 17% better than average. 7.39 in today's home run model. Christian Yelich in there at a 5.50. Willie Contreras at a 6.46. Everybody in that group had an aggressively good hard hit rate. last season. Nobody really strikes out all that aggressively. Contreras and Yelich both draw walks, both very effective players. Yelich stole a base the other day. That's about all he's done so far this season. But if he's running, that's a good sign from Christian Yelich. Means he's healthy. That's all we ever need out of Christian Yelich. He's never been bad. He's never stopped hitting the ball hard. He just isn't like a 40 home run guy. Sal Frelick, mix and match guy, a lot of speed. Rhys Hoskins, mix and match guy, a lot of power. Put those guys together, you get one competent, like really strong producer. But you don't want to use two spots necessarily to do that. So this is where I get into like the one or the other of any really of these four guys. Sal Frelick, Rhys Hoskins, Garrett Mitchell, and Joey Ortiz. Any one of those guys can give you upside. So it kind of comes down to price. It kind of comes down to what position are we trying to fill there. The fact that we'd probably have two guys in the outfield in our stack already probably pushes me more toward like a Rhys Hoskins or a Joey Ortiz in that decision. But it depends. You can absolutely take three outfielders if one of them's Garrett Mitchell. Mitchell's got a good skill set for fantasy. 3,500, 2,800 is a pretty good price. Hasn't done much to start the year. Hit 8 home runs and stole 11 bases in 224 plate appearances. He's got that like 2020-ish kind of skill set. Gets on base at a decent clip. Did last year anyway. I like that lefty bat. 3,500, 2,800 here. Ortiz got out of the gate strong last year, if I remember correctly. Finished the year at 11 home runs, 11 steals. Only moderately effective, but did create runs at a 104 WRC plus, 511 plate appearances, which is an accomplishment in and of itself. I think he's very playable as just a bolt-on part to mix things up here, and he fills middle infield spots, at least shortstop on DraftKings, second base on FanDuel. This goes... I actually like the Royals better here than the Brewers. How did it rank on the site? Yeah, for me, it's Royals over Brewers. Vegas doesn't necessarily have it that way, but that's close enough in terms of the implied total. So Royals bats, Brewers bats, and really neither one of these pitchers. Swoosh bang, what's going on? Yes, this is live. Simeon Woods Richardson. Not uninteresting. 7,800 on DraftKings. 86 on FanDuel. I don't think we're going there. Feels like we're paying a little bit of a White Sox tax. That hasn't really worked out to start the season either. The White Sox have burnt us a couple times already. Woods Richardson, 133 and 2/3 over 28 starts. Not exactly a ton of depth in his average starts. 4.17 ERA with a 4.55 xFIP. Just a 20% strikeout rate last year. He's not very good. He can chew up a couple innings here and there. I would probably rather do that later in the year when I know he's going to be stretched out to maybe give me 6 innings and a quality start, maybe get to a win and find a few extra strikeouts along the way. The only appeal here really is the matchup against the White Sox. They're 3.37 implied total, and they're, should be bad. But it hasn't really gone that way so far. Not that the numbers have been killer for the White Sox either, but I don't love it with kind of a weak already strikeout pitcher. There's plenty of Ks on the board for him. Wouldn't stun me if he put up a little value. I just think the FanDuel price is silly, and the DraftKings price isn't like aggressively bargain bin. So while he's playable here because of the matchup, it's only mid-board. Rather than this, give me this every time. I would probably also take the $1,000. No, that's dicey. I probably wouldn't do that. I think I probably go Woods Richardson 4,000 more over Will Warren against a much, much better Diamondbacks team. That's an interesting part of it. That's an interesting back and forth there. But definitely for me, Casey Mize for 300 cheaper. I like that. Shane Smith, another guy, kind of went low on the innings. He made 4 spring starts, got out to 4 innings in his last start, faced just 16 hitters, gave up 3 hits, struck out just 2. Looking at the numbers in 2024 in the minors, 32 outings, 16 starts, 94 and a third. So hybrid work between relief and starting. 29.6% strikeouts overall, but again, some of that coming in relief. When he bumped up from AA to AAA, his strikeouts went from 29.9 to 25%. The AAA numbers were all in relief. It's only 6 2/3 though. 87 2/3 of that came in AA. In 2023, 38 games all in relief. He had a 30-something percent strikeout rate. But I think we're looking in range of a 20-something percent strikeout rate in minor league work, which could dip down to low 20s in his first few outings here in the show, and probably a relatively aggressive walk rate. There's some pretty high numbers here in 9s, 10s, a 14 snuck in there somewhere, but that's a small sample. So I don't think there's all that much to work with here. 63, 65, even as a value dart. You can see where he projects. I really don't think we're chasing this one. They get a few effective innings out of him. I think they're going to be happy with that. And he's got a Twins team on the other side that can do some damage to him. Twins project out pretty well. One of the more highly ranked teams of the day. They rank second by fantasy point projections. They rank first on the board by value on FanDuel, second on DraftKings. They rank third by home runs. Ninth somehow by Vegas total. 4.21, just kind of in the middle of the board by Vegas total. Matt Wallner over the magic number for home runs, 11.06 in the model, 11.44 for Byron Buxton a couple spots later. In between them, you've got a very effective bat in Carlos Correa. Just ignore the 13 plate appearances this year. They do not matter. He is very, very good and always has been. 9.1% barrels last year, 44.5% hard hits, similar numbers the year before. Doesn't strike out, draws plenty of walks. Buxton will strike out for you. He doesn't walk that much, but when he connects, he crushes the ball still. So always room to believe for Byron Buxton as long as he's healthy and in the lineup. That is the only thing that he needs, much like his missing teammate Royce Lewis, who's currently injured. Trevor Larnach, a lot of lefty pop in that bat. 10.1% barrels, 45.1% hard hits last season. He's out to an okay start, over 11 plate appearances so far, meaningless. Last year, 15 home runs with a 175 ISO. Creator runs 21% better than average. You got everybody here in mid-teens home runs, right? So these look like underwhelming home run totals, but you got to remember, take them in the context of these plate appearances. So for an average 376 plate appearances, we had an average 16 home runs. That's pretty good. So there is a lot of power in this Twins lineup when everybody's here, everybody's healthy. Ryan Jeffers has a little bit of pop. $3,800 catcher. It's probably cheaper options overall that I like better. But as a part of a Twins stack, I think you can get aggressive about that. I actually made him the home run pick of the day from the Twins. 8.22 in the model. Not too bad. 2,600 on FanDuel. If you're stacking Twins, you can play Ryan Jeffers like he's their first baseman. Because Ty France, you're not missing all that much there. He's more a hit tool guy, and the hit tool's kind of starting to fade a little bit. He is relatively low strikeout, but doesn't draw that many walks. He's just okay. Willie Castro is a dynamic player, does have a good skill set for fantasy, mid-board home runs, some stolen bases. He's gotten out to a decent start, over 15 plate appearances here. Second base and outfield for 33. Second short and outfield on FanDuel for 3,000, even more appealing. One of those value guys from the Twins that we've liked over the last few seasons from down toward the bottom of the lineup. They've been good for that. Jose Miranda, very effective line drive hitter. Puts good bat on ball. Just 15.4% strikeouts, 4.2% walks last year, similar to the year before. The hard hits, the barrels are limited, though. We're talking about a guy who's an effective line drive hitter who could easily hit 300. 284, 332, 441 last year over 429 plate appearances. You get a little bit more BABIP favorable there. That's, 5 base hits, 6 base hits over the course of the season. Maybe a little bit more than that, but you get me. It's not much. 1 a week over the course of the season. So there's upside there, but there's not a ton of power. Below a halfway to the magic number in the home run model. And then Harrison Bader, good defender, mix and match quality as a bat. He's got a home run on the board already this year. He'll give you marginal output in the slash line and then mid-teens type power with a few stolen bases. He's okay, but he's more a real life fourth outfielder type. And then we've gotten a little bit of production out of some White Sox. 2 home runs on the board for Andrew Benintendi, oddly. Andrew Vaughn's got one on the board for Nick Maton. Lubob out to another slow start, over 15 plate appearances. Again, none of this matters. It's 3 games, 4 games. He'll come around. He'll be fine. And come around is even silly that he hasn't had any opportunity yet. But this is just an aggressively bad team. You can target Simeon Woods Richardson for just the idea that there will be contact allowed, but you're still allowing it to like the worst collection of players you could do that with on a slate with 22 teams available. Just don't go to the White Sox at a 3.37 total. There's a little differentiation there. If you choose to do so, include Lou Bob, especially at 4,200. That's stupid cheap on DraftKings. 3,000 is pretty cheap for him on FanDuel. He's in every White Sox stack that I make if I'm making White Sox stacks. Then I would look at Andrew Vaughn, and then by default, probably Matt Thaiss as a cheap catcher option on DraftKings and just 3-man. That's probably how I would approach the White Sox. There's really not much to see here down bottom of the lineup. That little bump in projected end time for this show brought to you by the Chicago White Sox and their terrible, terrible lineup. Speaking of terrible, Kyle Hendricks, 7,100, 7,000. Just don't use him. There's really no reason to play Kyle Hendricks here. 15% strikeout rate last year, a 5.92 ERA with a 4.59 xFIP, 3.70 home run rate, 95 rating by Stuff Plus. Once upon a time, an effective, innings eater of a pitcher, but he's always been low strikeout, high contact. Going up against the team, these guys he used to be a Cub. These guys have seen him a million times. Not that I'm into BVP or anything like that. We're not talking numbers on that, but just this is a familiar pitcher to this group of hitters. I'm not going over the moon about the Cards either because I think this is a very mediocre overall lineup. But they've got some guys who are showing their quality early. They do have a 4.63 implied total against one of, if not the worst pitcher on the board. So the Cards are very much in play. I just think they're going to get popular. But Lars Nootbaar, he's got 2 home runs on the season already. He's crushing the ball when he makes contact with it. Really interesting bat up at the top if this is his breakout year. That's one to watch. 9.9% barrels, 49.5% hard hits last season. Over 405 plate appearances. That translated to 12 home runs, 7 stolen bases. 342 on base makes him an effective player at the top of the lineup, too. Contributes alongside Wilson Contreras, who is another dynamite catcher. 0 for the season so far, over 19 plate appearances. We just don't care. That's got his price down to $4,200. He's only at first base on DraftKings now. Catcher's still on FanDuel, not that it matters over there. But mostly playing first base this season. They've got it right, but I'd love to have the catcher eligibility still on him. 46.8% hard hits, 11.2% barrels last season. Dude can mash. Brendan Donovan hit a home run yesterday. He's got a little bit of pop in that bat. He's more a spot filler as a DFS option. 3 positions on FanDuel for a fair price. 2 positions on DraftKings for a fair price. As long as he's hitting toward the top of the lineup, you can always bolt him on, but he's not that individually appealing. He is low strikeout, medium walk, so there is involvement in the offense there, but not a crazy, crazy strong individual performer. Arenado, home run on the board to start the year, 333 ISO, showing a little bit of bat speed. Needs to keep it up because that was the big detriment last year. We saw him crater last season. Still only struck out at a 14.5% clip, so the bat on ball was there. So if the effectiveness of the swing is improved, we could see a resurgence. I'm not writing it off, but I'm close to writing it off. I was right at the cusp of writing it off, and then he hit that home run the other day. So we'll give him a little bit of a chance to show us some bat speed. But I was basically done with Nolan Arenado coming into this year, and I still think that's going to be the case. I don't think that that's something that you can just magically get back. Alec Burleson, mix and match piece in the, at first base, outfield and first base on the FanDuel slate, can connect with the ball and drive it from the left side against a really bad righty. So if we're looking to get a little bit different, this is where I start considering more of these guys. These guys are obvious. They're going to be in everybody's every single card stack that everybody builds. So this is where you really need to differentiate, and Burleson can do that for you, but you get the positional conflict at first base there, which is why they really should give him outfield on DraftKings. So that kind of sucks. FanDuel, I think he's effective. 2,800, nice solid piece of differentiation there. 6.56 in the home run model. Solid projection overall in terms of just the raw fantasy projection. Hit 21 home runs and stole 9 bases last year. An effective catcher at 3,300, 41.9% hard hits last season. 2,700, you can mix and match your way through shares of him on the FanDuel slate. He is a good hitter, and he is a guy that you would want involved in some stacks. But I think I like the guys that are above him a little bit better overall, and I think I like Burleson a little bit better if you're considering like the first base catcher spot or the util spot. But I definitely, if I'm building 10 card shares, I'm getting Herrera into 4 of them. Jordan Walker, I think, is probably the most interesting differentiator down there. 2,500 across sites. Start to the season's okay. I talked about it yesterday. I've talked about it ad nauseum. Week 2024, good 2023, despite what the team might have thought of it. Bounce back and forth between the minors and the show. Really needs to just contribute out of the gate here so they don't mess with his time. And he's got that skill set, formerly one of the top prospects in baseball. Very, very cheap. Victor Scott is a speed burner. He's got a home run on the board, oddly. He's already stolen 3 bases. As long as he's getting on base, he's effective because he is capable of stealing around 90 bases over the course of a full season. But he needs to get on base, or he needs help from his friends, and he needs help from his friends. Mason Wynn, an effective bat at the bottom of the lineup, was pretty good last year as a rookie. 637 plate appearances, 15 homers, 11 steals. So it's a deep cards lineup. It's just kind of deep with a lot of C-plus type players. That's why I don't get that excited about the cards, even in a good spot against Kyle Hendricks with a good, healthy run total. Very, very playable, though. That was cards. I didn't even talk about the Angels. So we'll do that. But it's going to be cards and then Angels and probably no Matthew Liberatore. 7,300, 7,200 across sites. Last season, 86 innings, 6 starts. Relief work, 21.2% strikeout rate, 4.40 ERA. 11.6% swinging strikes is good. But what's the difference? What's ramped up in relief work versus starts there? Not really excited about this spot. I do like these Angels bats. There are Ks available for them. Got to give him at least that much. In the spring, final spring start, he got out to 4 innings, faced 16 hitters, struck out 2. He did not strike out more than 2 in any of his spring appearances. Was moderately effective through them, though. Wasn't exactly dinged up. Not that we really care about spring numbers. But what I'm looking for there is more just depth. You know, if you roll through 16 hitters over 4 innings, I would have liked you to have gotten that 5th inning and see a little bit more. So I just question what the actual ceiling here looks like, too, even if he's going well. But there are Ks. It's also threat from power. You got Mike Trout here. Eventually, he's going to do something this season. Taylor Ward, pretty decent spot at the top of the lineup, hitting ahead of Trout, getting on base. That's all Taylor Ward needs to do to be effective this season. He also does have a little bit of power in his bat. 13% barrels last year, 42.1% hard hits. The Angels are below a 4 implied total, which we don't love, but close enough to a 4 implied total that we can get there. So I'm going to continue chasing with the Angels a little bit. I won't have an aggressive amount, but I think some is perfectly fine, especially with all the right-handed power that they've got going up against the lefty and a low strikeout lefty at that. So give me some Taylor Ward. Give me some Mike Trout. Give me some Jorge Soler against the lefty. Let's remember how good Jorge Soler truly is at mashing the ball. It didn't come through really well. He had a down year last year. 568 plate appearances, just 21 homers. Dipped down to a 199 ISO, which individually in a vacuum, still a very good ISO. But he's a 200-plus guy and 200-plus by a mile most seasons. 36 homers 2 years ago, 262 ISO. There are days where you just play Jorge Soler because a lefty's on the mound. This could be one of them. 4,400, 2,900, really like the price. Logan O'Hoppe, 3,500, an effective catcher option on DraftKings. 12% barrels, 46.3% hard hits last season. Against a guy who's going to let them make some contact here. I like that upside for Logan O'Hoppe. 2,900 on FanDuel. I think you could play him like he's their first baseman. I don't love the 3 outfielders in a row off the top of the batting order in terms of just, stackability. But if you just go a 3-man on FanDuel, all outfielders, 3-man on DraftKings, all outfielders, and then build out your infield with one of these teams that has effective offerings that way, it's one way you can stack a team. But typically I like to leave options. But at least you're getting 3 very appealing outfielders there. Joe Moncada, 41-25. Hasn't done much over the last few years. Never really delivered on his promise. Probably a little underdeveloped and just dropped into the major leagues. Last couple seasons, 11 home runs, over 357. He's just missed a ton of time, too. So it's difficult to expect much from Moncada, but a switch hitter, cheap enough, fill him in at third base. If you're skipping one of the outfielders, maybe you include him. Decent enough spot in the lineup, and the ability to drive the ball at least. Luis Rengifo, mix and match guy across multiple positions, had a decent year last year. Stole some bases, hit 6 home runs, 24 steals, got on at a 347 clip, most importantly, over 304 plate appearances. That's an effective enough fantasy bat. He doesn't really strike out, makes a lot of contact, finds his way to first base, correlated scoring, and sequencing. Bottom of the lineup gets a little problematic around Timmy Anderson, Kyron Paris, and Kevin Newman, if that's what we get. Kyron Paris has been good to start the year, 375, 500, 1,000 with a home run on the board and 2 stolen bases. Last season in 59 plate appearances, he underperformed what he's already done in 10 plate appearances this year. I wouldn't get too excited. So again, Cardinals bats, Angels bats, really neither pitcher. Pavin Smith DH and Gurriel hitting third. Like it. $242 on your wristwatch or your phone or your pocket watch, whatever you use out there. I was initially thinking I would get us out of here by 3, but it's probably going to be more like 3:30. If you're looking for the NBA and NHL projections, they will be up after this show. Access all of, all right, we're on the Giants. Access all of baseball, hockey, and basketball projections for every main slate for under $1 a day at rotoscouts. All in, no per sport prices. There's the confirmed version of the Diamondbacks lineup, just going back in time a little bit. Pavin Smith, super interesting, hitting third. Eugenio Suarez still in the lineup. Josh Naylor still in the lineup. Carol Marte. What was the change? Did somebody not? Who was initially hitting third in that projected? It was Lourdes. All right. So Gurriel's out of the lineup. All right, that's what it was. Oh, okay. I misunderstood the way that Power phrased it. He's in the lineup in place of Gurriel hitting third. Yeah, there you go. I had him, or the projected lineup that I had in here had him in just further down the lineup and had Gurriel in that spot. So that's the switch we get. You do lose a good bat from the Diamondbacks lineup. That hurts them a little bit in terms of the stack up side, but Pavin Smith is a very strong replacement, and you get another lefty hitting up high in the order. So I actually really like this as a 4-man, and as a 5-man if you stretch down to Eugenio Suarez, who is the home run pick of the day. You can see this essentially almost directly replaced where Lourdes Gurriel was in the projection and in the home run mark anyway. So that's a lateral move for a bat that we still like. First base and outfield eligibility. You don't even lose position. And I think he's a little bit cheaper. And you get a lefty instead of a righty in Yankee Stadium. So yeah, I kind of like that. I just wish we had Gurriel later in the lineup still. Giants, Astros. Definitely have a pitcher to work with here. Logan Webb, 8,500, 9,200. Projects as one of the better options of the day. Not the top of the board, but top 7. Like him quite a bit better than Jose Barrios, even going up against this Astros lineup. And we've seen some guys get through this Astros lineup. A couple of the Mets pitchers did well, despite this being the Astros, despite those low strikeout numbers that will be real this year. If anybody can do it, Logan Webb can do it. It's just Webb's only a 20-ish% strikeout rate pitcher anyway. 22.8 last year, or excuse me, 20.5% last year over 204, 22.8 in 216 2 years ago. So if you're already taking a low strikeout ace, who is a ground ball and limit power type specialist, and throwing him up against a team that is aggressively low strikeout already, now we're just talking about clean innings. I don't love the spot for Logan Webb. But I think the discount that you're getting at 8,500 on DraftKings kind of takes care of that. 92 on FanDuel is probably a little bit cheaper than he could be. You can see what I'm talking about in the Stuff Plus. Loves the arsenal. Well above average. 1.31% home runs allowed. We don't care about the hard hits and the exit velo because 2.5 degree average launch. If you can't get the ball in the air, you can't hit home runs. 0.6 degree average launch the year before. Again, aggressive hard hits and exit velo, but we don't care because it's on the ground primarily. 2.35% home run allowed. So he has a big impact on the home run numbers here. You can see only Jordan above halfway to the magic number. Even Christian Walker is below halfway to the magic number. But they have a similar effect on his upside. I don't know how much ceiling he's really got beyond those median projections. Went 5 in his first start, lost a few guys to walks, wasn't a very effective start. Me forgive first outings. In his second start, could we see 6 if things are going well? I think we could. In spring, he got out to 5 2/3 in his last start, faced 21 hitters, faced 19 hitters the start before that over 5 innings. So 6 is easily in the cards here for Logan Webb, but challenging opponent. So I wouldn't necessarily go give it to him. It's a little bit difficult to chase 35, 40-point FanDuel game, an 18, 20-point DraftKings game against this Astros team. But Logan Webb is good enough any given slate to get there. Very, very playable. Not my top priority pitcher. Hayden Wesneski, 67 2/3 last year, 7 starts, 3.86 ERA, a 3.93 xFIP, decidedly average. The whip was okay. Okay swinging strike rate and CSW numbers, an okay-ish, a little above average 23.7% strikeout rate, perfectly effective. A lot of home runs, a lot of barrels. Exit velo and hard hits for that many barrels, not crazy. Launch angle, not aggressively fly ball. More fly balls the year before and even more of a home run problem. Stuff Plus doesn't really like the arsenal. Not really excited about the pitcher. 4.63 ERA, 4.35 xFIP 2 years ago, fewer strikeouts. Not a lot of meat on the bone for Aiden Wesneski. I think we lean Giants bats, and you can kind of see it coming through in the home run model there. So if I can get this upside Giants team with some bats that I really like for pretty cheap, I think I'm going there. Lamont Wade, player I talk about all the time. Not the best start to his season, over 15 plate appearances, but it doesn't matter. 0 on-base percentage. He had a 380 on base last year. Creator runs 19% better than average. Dipped to just 8 home runs, but hit 17 the year before that. Just 8 the year before that one. But he's been good the last 2 seasons at getting on base, creating runs, setting the table for the guys behind him, with the ability to still drive the ball from the left side of the plate. So I like Lamont Wade at 3,700. Just look at the barrel and hard hit rates. He makes good contact. He draws a ton of walks. Even if he just walks 3 times. I'll take that for DFS at these prices and rely on Willy Adames, Young-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman, Elliot Ramos, guys like that to drive him in. Adames coming off a career year. Nothing to speak of over his 17 plate appearances so far this year, but at 211 ISO, 32 homers, 21 steals last year. Again, career season, only 4,400, 3,300 with an 11.48 in the home run model. Going up against a very gettable pitcher, 4 home run upside. This could be Willie's big day, big breakout day with his new club. Young-Hoo Lee, I like to put bat on ball 5 times today. That's this guy's skill set. 8.2% strikeout, 6.3% walks in a third of a season last year, or a quarter of a season last year. 158 plate appearances. Didn't translate to much because it wasn't much of a sample. Just an 83 WRC plus. But a guy whose skill set very much is low strikeout, low walk, put bat on ball, succeed through BABIP. Perfect option as a 3-hitter in this lineup. Matty Chapman, I love the premium contact upside. 2 years ago, 17.1% barrels, 56.1% hard hits. Hit a bunch of home runs. Came out last year, 12.6% barrels, 48.2% hard hits. Has a home run on the board already this year. 214 ISO in his 17 plate appearances that don't mean anything. Just 4,500, just 3,400 against a homer-happy pitcher. Matt Chapman home run upside for sure today, 10.87. Kind of regret not making him the home run pick of the day now. Elliot Ramos, 36, 35 across sides. Very differently priced. Elliot Ramos is downright cheap on DraftKings. He's cheap for like a mediocre player, and he's quite good. On FanDuel, they got it right. 3,500. He should be a $3,500 player on FanDuel. He should be a 4,000 plus, mid 4,000s guy on DraftKings. They've got him cheap by about 1,000. He had 22 home runs last year in 518 plate appearances. Had a 200 ISO, 120 WRC plus. 2 home runs on the board already this year in 17. He crushes the ball when he makes contact. 14.5% barrels and 47.4% hard hits as a rookie. Kid can mash. Patty Bailey, at worst, a mix and match quality catcher. Wilmer Flores, 2,400, can play first or third in my lineups. He's already hit 3 home runs this year. We know Wilmer's got a little bit of pop if things are going well for him, and he doesn't really strike out, so there's a lot of quality bat on ball there. I don't mind some cheap Wilmer. I don't necessarily want to get chasey about it, but if he lands in a few lineups, it's okay. Mike Yastrzemski, I actually like the contact upside. Lefty back going up against Wisniewski. Again, a homer prone righty. Mike Yastrzemski barrels the ball pretty significantly, has a decent hard hit rate, fair amount of home runs, 18 homers and 474 last year. It's a good enough fantasy option for me. And then Tyler Fitz is a category stuffer. 15 homers, 17 steals, a 334 on base, a 217 ISO, 132 WRC plus over a half a season last year. You get him at 31, 28, multiple positions on both sides. This is a very, very stackable Giants lineup. They rate Did I miss? Oh, there they are. They rate first by home run rating. I actually should push them up the board a little bit. I think the board might underrate them a little bit. They're 11th by Vegas rating, kind of middle of the pack. They're 14th by fantasy points, 13th by fantasy points. 19th and 17th by value doesn't really jive in my head, though. These prices are cheap. I might get in there and look at those value numbers on the Giants. I think I like the stack a little bit better talking it through than the board might currently reflect. Logan Webb, but don't love the matchup. Giants bats right there with him. And then it would be Astros bats, but I really don't think it's the day for them. If you're going that direction, Jose Altuve off the top, Jordan Alvarez and Christian Walker are in most of your lineups as the three obvious guys, the three stars. Jordan, one of the best hitters in the game. Christian Walker, a relatively low strikeout most years, power bat with 30-plus home run power. Like the option there. Paredes, we've talked about in home games. Fire away. Left field fence is the key thing for him. Francisco Lindor in the lineup, if that means anything to any Mets fans or fantasy gamers out there. Altuve still a superstar quality second baseman, one of the top 2 or 3 second basemen in all of baseball. And then we get interesting down here. Jainer Diaz, I love the hit tool. I like the power upside. Hasn't done anything in his 12 plate appearances, but that does not matter. It's just made him cheaper and cheaper. 4,000 on DraftKings. Fire away in catcher shares. That's a great option for a catcher one-off. Even with Logan Webb on the mound, honestly, that's not a bad price to find that hit tool. That is a really good hitter. Jeremy Pena, mix and match quality at short, but he's cheap. Cam Smith, a little bit of pop in that bat, but this is the wrong pitcher to throw home run upside against. And then Brendan Rodgers and Jake Myers are pretty skippable down the bottom. If you go Astros, take 3 out of the top 4 there, bolt Jainer Diaz onto it, and run with it. But it's more on the Giants side for me. Handful of games to go. Value starter of the day. We are here to talk Casey Mize. I told you yesterday we were going to do it, and here we are. Swoosh bang. Entered the $150 100K up top on FanDuel. Go get it, buddy. Take that one down. That is a nice, juicy tournament. Dennis says, too bad Lorenzen doesn't play for the White Sox. He could be there, Ohtani. So, Casey Mize, former first overall pick. Right, we're going to do this. I know it's not going to be comfortable, given the results that we've seen in the show. So, former first overall pick. Made the show that was in 2018. Worked a couple years in the minors, 21 starts back in 2019, 109 innings of relatively effective, moderate, low, 24.7% strikeouts against 5.3% walks. Good, not superstar, ace caliber, but good. Made the show in 2020 in the strike. I wish it was a strike. In the COVID shortened season. 28 1/3 over 7 starts that year in the show. He had a 19.5% strikeout rate, just a 9.8% walk rate. The world was weird that year. Kid making his MLB debut in those weird no fan games, etc., etc. You can kind of write that off. 30 starts in the show in 2021. Was full-fledged in the rotation. Former first overall pick, ready to rock. Over those 30 starts, put up just a 19.3% strikeout. Kind of underwhelming there. Allowed a fair amount of home runs. Just a 6.7% walk rate is pretty good. Just had a 1.14 whip is not bad. But the overall numbers were not that appealing. 3.71 ERA, but a 4.37 xFIP. It's actually, I shouldn't say not that appealing. For a kid, that's not bad over that sample. And then we've just lost the last 2 or 3 seasons, 22, 23, and the first half of 24, kind of just gone. Came back last year, 102 and a third, over 20 starts in the show, made 4 appearances in AAA, 13 and 2/3 down there. Struck out a bunch of hitters in AAA, but struggled when he came to the show. Just a 17.3% strikeout rate is really limiting. Only walked 6.4% though. 4.49 ERA, but a 4.04 xFIP underneath it. .433 Sierra under that number. Sierra a little higher than the xFIP. Sierra slightly better predictor of ERA. But okay-ish numbers despite the low strikeout totals. That was just last year in his return. So why do I think Casey Mize can succeed here? 1, dynamite spring. He had 4 spring starts, struck out 25 hitters in 19 innings, struck out 25 of the 75 hitters that he faced. That is a 33% strikeout rate. Yes, it's spring hitters. What I really like is that he was inducing chase. He was inducing whiffs. The splitter has looked absolutely elite. It's just falling off the table again. His velo is up. Everything looks like it's working again. So I'm really excited about the spot. I wrote him up as a pickup on the waiver wire. The overall numbers, 1.89 ERA, a 1.0 whip over the spring. Again, 19 innings, 10.7% walks. That could get ugly. 33.3% strikeouts. I'm chasing. And especially if he's going to be low-owned, going up against a free-swinging Mariners squad that we're going to target throughout most of the season in home games. We did this with this team last year. Look at all these strikeouts. This is a 25.7% strikeout average for this lineup, including the 18 at the top. If you take Victor Robles out of the equation, that's 26.6. Juicy opportunity for Casey Mize to get the comeback season started, or the breakout season, or whatever we want to call it. 2-start week for him. He's got this one. He's got the White Sox on Saturday or Sunday. And if he fails in both of those, he might be back on the waiver wire and never spoken of again. But right now, I'm excited about the spot. 7,500, 7,800. I'm going to have a lot. Logan Gilbert, 9,000, 10,600. Easiest pay up of the day. Top projected pitcher on both sites. Looking like a monster. 7 innings in his debut on the season. Didn't walk anybody. Struck a bunch of guys out. That was a 7-inning start. He struck out 8 athletics. Faced 23 hitters. Gave up 1 earned run, 2 hits. Again, didn't walk anybody. That is exactly what these Mariners pitchers do. They strike guys out. They don't walk anybody. Last year, 27.4% against a 4.6% walk rate with a 14.9% swinging strike rate. Duke can induce whiffs. He's got great stuff. Love the upside for Logan Gilbert here. He's got the Tigers under a 3-run implied total. Pitchers park on his side. Everything about this spot on his side. You do have some interesting bats in this Tigers lineup. We talked about them yesterday. We'll continue to talk about them on and off throughout the season. Really like Kerry Carpenter. Think he's more than just a power bat. I think he's a very good hitter with tons and tons of power upside. Excellent premium contact marks. Riley Green, growing power threat. Excellent bat. Spencer Torkelson, it's been on, it's been off. He's very, very cheap. He's got power upside galore. He's off to a good start so far this season. Colt Keith, a former top prospect, kind of scuffled out of the gate through most of last year. Not a great start to his season this year, playing first base this year, but he's very cheap. But I like that group of hitters. I like Justin Henry Malloy up at the top. He's not available on DraftKings, by the way, 2,200 on FanDuel. I just want nothing to do with these hitters going up against Logan Gilbert. Gilbert all day long, even as a contrarian option. They're better than, say, like the White Sox as a contrarian option, but their matchup is way, way worse. So I really do not like anything Tigers today, which is not going to be a common thought. This is going to be a team we're going to get to a little bit this year. Javi Baez, hilariously, at the bottom of this lineup. 9 okay plate appearances so far this year. Maybe this is the Javi bounce back year. Keep an eye on it. Dead min price if you're going there on DraftKings. I guess he's an outfielder now. If you're going to Seattle against Casey Mize, which I do think is doable, if you load up a ton of Casey Mize shares, probably would behoove you to stick a share or two of Seattle in your pocketbook as well. Victor Robles off the top, 3,900, 2,700. Not the greatest start over his 22 plate appearances so far, but we've talked about this a lot. Former top 5 prospect in all of baseball. Good year 2019. Okay year in the COVID year. Fell off, lost his job, came to Seattle. Excellent half a season last year. Stole 34 bases, created runs 41% better than average, hit 300 over 295 plate appearances. Just go to him if you're considering the Mariners off the top of the lineup. He is cheap in the outfield. You need him to get on. You need some help from his friends. That's his primary skill set. Can drive the ball from time to time, though. Julio Rodriguez, 5,200, 3,500. Home run, 2 steals on the board already, getting on at a decent clip already. Hopefully it continues and we just start the season with his superstar abilities fully engaged. We've seen some frustrating starts out of him, but 9.49 in the home run model, 9.75 for Cal Raleigh. Those are your 2 priorities in this lineup. Tons of barrels, tons of hard hits out of those 2. A lot of home run upside there. Randy Arozarena would be my next man in for sure. 4,200, 3,000, a pretty good price. 2 homers on the board this season, a 438 ISO in his limited sample of 20 plate appearances that do not matter, but lots and lots of upside over the years. Mid-20s home run type guy, steals the occasional base. Jorge Polanco, mix and match infield at 3,700, 2,600. The start to this season is okay. It's just been a minute for Jorge, but we can give him some credit for years past. Maybe he finds it again, puts it back together a little bit here in Seattle. Luke Raley, I like the upside. He got a home run on the board last night. As long as he's in the lineup and should be against a righty, there's upside there. There's hard hits. There's barrels, 11% barrels, 41.8% hard hits last year. Better numbers for premium contact the year before. There's also a lot of Ks there, but he can steal a base. He can hit you a home run. He's an interesting fantasy player. I just wish he would get 600 plate appearances. They just don't tend to hit him against lefties. Rowdy Tellez at the dead mid price. Lefty back going up against a righty who might allow a little bit of contact if that splitter's not firing today. So Rowdy, an oddball home run upside guy, 6.63 in the model. Not a guy we're chasing by any means and not the best park for it, but dead mid price you can't completely ignore. And then Ryan Bliss, JP Crawford, a little bit of speed in Bliss, a little bit of on base potentially out of Crawford, but mix and match guys down the bottom of the lineup. Logan Gilbert, way up top. Casey Mize, love the value. 2 of my favorite pitchers of the day in this one. Don't really need bats on either side of this one, but would prefer the Mariners over the Tigers in this spot if you had to gun to my head the bats. 3 games to go, coming up a little bit after 3 o'clock. With apologies to Mr. Logan Allen, we're kind of going to breeze through him here. 18% strikeouts over 97 and a third in 20 starts. You don't get a lot of depth. You get a lot of shaky performances out of Logan Allen and not that many strikeouts. He was better in 2023. He had a decent strikeout rate. He was actually a young up-and-comer on the Dynasty team that year, and he's no longer on the Dynasty team. Just not a reliable lefty and not a guy you really want to throw against the fairly effective Padres, the low strikeout Padres. I just don't see the upside for Logan Allen here. I most definitely see the upside from Michael King. 8,700, 9,500, effectively priced across sites. Tons and tons of strikeout upside from Michael King going up against this high strikeout Guardians lineup. I know that we've talked for years about the Guardians being pretty low strikeout, and they do still have several key hitters who are low strikeout. Stephen Kwan's going to be sub 10% or around 10% again. Jose Ramirez, one of the best players in all of baseball, 10 to 12%, and Carlos Santana mixes in the mid-teens over time. Everybody else is mid to upper 20s until you get to Brian Rocchio, who's irrelevant at the bottom of their lineup. So there are a lot of Ks now in Cleveland. There's also a lot of power threat. Nolan Jones could potentially come roaring back to life after a down season last year. Had a very good 424 plate appearances in 2023. 20 homers, 20 steals. Dipped to just 3 homers and 5 steals in 297 plate appearances last year. The skills are there, though. Cleveland went out and reacquired him. I like the upside for Nolan Jones, but give me Michael King in this spot all day long. I like the price on DraftKings at 8,700. King in his first start, like I said at the beginning of the show, this is kind of a mulligan for King. Went out and faced the Braves 2 2/3, gave up 3 earned runs, struck out just 3, walked 4, which is problematic and why he was out of the game pretty quickly. But definitely a much sharper matchup for him. This is a guy last year, 27.7% Ks, a 2.95 ERA with a 3.50 xFIP, 12% swinging strikes. Good inducer of swinging strikes. Very good CSW. A strong strike thrower for a very good price on DraftKings. At 95 on FanDuel, he's our, second highest projected pitcher of the day? I'll have plenty. And if you need some price relief from Logan Gilbert, that's a perfectly acceptable option. Guardians bats, dicey. I do think if you're going there, it's obvious that Jose Ramirez is in essentially every lineup. Kyle Manzardo has some power upside. You can get King for some power. Last season, just a 2.34%. Year before, 2.32. So I guess mid-type power allowed. Not even that bad. I'll unwind that. I thought there was a little bit more power in the history. Very good at limiting hard hit and exit velo, which is what cuts into it because there's a little bit of fly ball trajectory there. But yeah, a little better than I thought, a little sharper than I thought giving up home runs. So that even cuts in, and that explains why these numbers are so low. Manzardo off to a good start. Both his home runs came lefty-lefty, which is a strong sign for his breakout season. Steven Kwan, just a very effective table setter. If he's going to hit for mid-teens power again this year, he becomes more interesting from a fantasy sense. 44-33. Prefer him to his clone in terms of what they do with the hit tool. Luis Arias on the other side. The two guys cut from the same cloth. But Kwan's shown a little bit more pop lately, so he's kind of interesting. Carlos Santana, just a low strikeout, going to hit probably 20 home runs this year or thereabouts, but decidedly mediocre. 2,600, 3,400, you're not paying a lot for him. So if you're going to the Guardians, I think he's prioritized. Positional conflict with Manzardo on DraftKings, don't need to worry about it on FanDuel, but you do occupy your util spot if you go that route. Both of these guys could be solid like 2020 type contributors. Leighton Thomas is the more likely guy to give you solid just average and on base and across the board contributions. But either of those guys, an effective enough for the money fantasy option in your outfield today. Bo Naylor, a little bit of cheap catcher pop, but not really drawn against Michael King with him. Gibber Arias, just strikeouts, a little bit of power upside. He does have a home run on the board, but a lot of Ks, not that many walks. And then Rocha is just a mix and match slap hitter type. Going up against Logan Allen, plenty of upside for the Padres. Fernando Tatis, one of the highest home run marks on the entire slate. Rip-roaring start for him so far, 3 stolen bases, which, as I said yesterday, that's a great indicator for him. We just want to see him running, fully healthy, etc. 222 WRC plus, 200 ISO. Pretty solid 22 plate appearances so far, and wasn't bad in his 438 last year. 21 home runs, 276, 344, 92 with a 135 WRC plus, 216 ISO. In a vacuum for anybody, that's a really good partial season, but for what we expect from Fernando Tatis, it's not exactly on par. 14.5% barrels, 55.4% hard hits in that is a good indicator that he'll come roaring back to life. Manny Machado, solid contact numbers last season. Decent production over his first 19 plate appearances this year. You've gotten decent production out of Xander Bogaerts, who has 2 stolen bases on the board now. Love the upside for Bogey season long to just contribute for a pretty good OPS. Flirt with 18 to 20 home runs. Flirt with 25 stolen bases if he's actually going to be running like this. Cheap, 4,100, 3,000, still has second base on FanDuel as well. Jackson Merrill for 5,000, 3,600, not a bad price. Strong start to his year after his second place runner-up Rookie of the Year campaign last year. 24 homers, 16 steals, a 130 WRC plus. Just put him in your lineup if you're going there. Don't worry about lefty-lefty against Logan Allen at all. Julie Gurriel, at least an interesting enough righty bat if he's in the lineup, 2,200, 2,500. Is old man at this point, but could probably turn on one against Logan Allen on the right day. Cronenworth, Lockridge, Martin Maldonado, solid mixers. Cronenworth's easily the best guy in that group down there. 3,500, 3,000 across sites. He's fine, but he's not a priority. Michael King way up top. A little bit of playability out of the Padres bats. Pretty big gap down to playing the Guardians against King, and then no Logan Allen for me. Breakout team of the day, Cubbies yesterday. Come back looking solid again. They are 3rd by points on both sites, 4th by value on FanDuel. They bump up in price on DraftKings, 11th by value on DraftKings, 4th overall in the home run model today. This is an exciting team. It's a very, very strong DFS team. They scored 18 runs yesterday, and Ian Happ barely was involved. One of their best overall hitters. Happ out of the gate with a 343 on base over 35 plate appearances. He got on at a 341 clip last year while hitting 25 home runs, stealing 13 bases, creating runs 22% better than average. That's who he is. That's what he does. And putting that in front of Kyle Tucker, I love the upside for that combo all year long as a pair of outfielders. They're not cheap to get to as a two-man unit. It's $3,750 on FanDuel. That's $5,400 a piece when you average it up on DraftKings. But it's very, very effective. Putting them ahead of Seiya Suzuki is also very effective. But you can see the pricing up a little bit on DK for everybody not named Michael Busch in that top half of the lineup. Which is interesting, kind of, because Busch is also good. He deserved a little bit better of a price bump there, too. He should probably be above 4,000. Last season, 11.2% barrels out of him. That alone is good. Over 28 plate appearances this season. He's hit a home run. He's stolen a base. Last year, he hit 21 homers in 567 plate appearances at a 192 ISO. Created runs 19% better than average. There are definitely strikeouts there, but there's also the ability to draw a walk. It's a very effective cleanup bat, and now we're talking once we bolt that in there. That gets me down under 5,000 already for my top 4 hitters in a Cub stack. And if I'm going to Dansby, that bounces me probably back up. 48. That's not bad. I would probably just straight line it there, but if you want to skip Dansby and go to Matt Shaw down there, that brings you down to 46 for the 5-man. Not bad. You could go Miguel Amaya and just get real cheap catcher and get down to like 44. So there are ways, even with them being a mid-board value team on DraftKings, to get to a very affordable version of the Cub stack while not really sacrificing that much upside. Like Nico should easily be the guy priced in the 3s between him, Matt Shaw, and Michael Busch. Nico's fine. He's an okay hit tool guy with a little bit of speed. Puts bat on ball frequently, but not aggressively. So for DFS, for what we're really looking for, he's a guy who needs a lot of help from his friends, where Shaw, Swanson, those guys don't really, or Busch. Carson Kelly not in the projected lineup. Went for the cycle last night. Maybe they're giving him a little bit of a rest after all that running. Pretty awesome to see, though. Again, crazy night yesterday for the Cubbies. But going up against Sevy's not bad. He had a kind of a mixed bag of a first start, it looks like. Got through 6, which is kind of the most important thing for him. Stuff Plus liked the arsenal in that start. He didn't allow a run, but look at the xFIP number from that start. Right, so he maybe not pitching quite as well as the no runs allowed would have indicated. Got out of a couple, walked a few hitters. The overall numbers looked like 6 innings, allowed 3 hits, walked 4, struck out 6. So that could have, 1-2 key hits, one mistake pitch here or there. That could have gotten ugly in a real big hurry. Just a 23.2% CSW for that game is noteworthy. That's in line with what he does, too. That is not a crazy outlier number. The swinging strikes are nice to see. He's a little bit lower than what the output was there, more like a 5 strikeout guy over 6 innings. But that's not a crazy outlier game in any way for Sevy. Last season, 3.91 ERA, but a 4.12 xFIP, allowed a 3+% home run rate. But again, Stuff Plus does like the arsenal. The nature of the actual pitches is good. 5.52% home run rate 2 years ago, a little problematic. That was his last year in Yankee Stadium. At 83, at 9,000, is there enough upside there? There are Ks in the Cubs lineup. Getting them in a 4.3 implied total. I think Severino's playable, mostly on DraftKings, 8,300. 9,000 on FanDuel's really pushing it for me. I'd much rather have him in the 85-ish and probably even lower than that range. So I don't really love this spot. While there are some strikeouts in here, there are just aggressively good on-base guys that are going to potentially exploit his inability to throw strikes, his fairly heavy walks. When he goes up against teams that swing at a lot of pitches out of the zone and have issues with that is when he's more effective. Against a patient club, I don't love the spot for Severino. So give me the Cubs bats in that equation all day. But do I think Severino could succeed if you roll this 100 times? Could he succeed in 40% of them, 35% of them? Yeah. A side of things, again, Justin Steele making his 3rd start of the year. 9 innings so far this season. Not a high strikeout guy, but an effective enough pitcher. Keeps the ball down fairly decently. 12-degree average launch last year, but just a 4.2% barrel allowed. Not a lot of premium contact, just 2.16% home run rate. Struck out 24% each of the last 2 seasons. Sub 2% home run rate from 2 years ago. Sub 10-degree average launch. Misses barrels consistently. Doesn't allow a lot of good contact. Difficult to square up. Doesn't put a ton of guys on base reasonably good strikeout to walk. So I think a stretched out, effective lefty who can maybe limit some of the A's power upside, which is where the A's really are going to find their quality from and already have early in the season. I like the upside for Justin Steele. I like the idea of Steele. I still like the idea of Steele. I can't say his name. The show's gotten a little bit long when I can't say the word Steele. I like the upside of taking him and putting him with a little stack of Cubs. That might have been what Dennis was asking about early in the show. This is a lot of quality here. Projects out as one of the top overall options on the day. What is he, third? Third for a very fair price compared to the top of the board. Nice discount in both directions. So definitely some shares of Justin Steele are downright interesting. He's got a big right-handed power threat in Brent Rooker. Brent Rooker's just a very good hitter. Super intelligent. Made huge strides last year. Home run on the board already. Great Twitter follow if you're not following him on Twitter. Lawrence Butler at the top of their lineup, an interesting lefty bat, but could struggle a little bit here against the pitcher like Steele. Same thing with J.J. Bleday if he's hitting third. Dipping down the lineup, Tyler Soderstrom, we'll see what that looks like. Lefty here against an effective power-limiting lefty. Soderstrom's game is hitting the ball for power, squaring it up and driving it. So could be a little bit of a problematic matchup. The A's under a 4 implied total. Not really that appealing as a DFS option. I do think you could shake things up, maybe throw 1 or 2 contrarian A stacks into the mix if you're building 20 plus lineups. Could you have one? Sure. Is it the day where we go get a lot of A's as a contrarian lineup? I don't think it is. I don't have any love for the Gio Urshela, Max Schumann, Jacob Wilson part of the lineup. It would really be Soderstrom plus the top 4. Not a big Miguel Andujar fan, but he could succeed. A righty bat with a little bit of a hit tool could succeed against a pitcher like Steele, but then you're going to need help from everybody else. So mix and match piece there. We did talk through the top end of the Cubs. If we're getting down to the bottom of the Cubs, I talked about Shaw. Amaya is just a cheap mix and match piece. I mentioned him as a cheap catcher possibility. The reason I swung back to it, though, PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, still struggling with the bat over his first 30 plate appearances, but when he gets on, he is capable of making things happen. He's very fast, an aggressive base runner, so he's not unplayable, but we really need that bat to come to life. 5.18 in the home run model, though, for the lefty. Not nothing. Oh, that was Cubs bats, Justin Steele essentially tied, both looking very, very sharp from like the 3-4 spots on their respective boards. And then a little bit of Sevy and maybe a 1 contrarian A stack. Last game up. 55 people here hanging out for the end of the show. Love watching the waves of people coming in and out, checking out how long this is going to go. What the hell could he still be talking about? Steven nailed it. Steve said, I need to play catch up again. I should have known Terry would go longer than Cory Booker. If you missed it, Cory Booker was on last I saw hour 17 of consecutive speaking. Pretty wild. All right, good pitching matchup to end the night. Dodgers Braves, 2 very effective lineups, but kind of interesting. I don't know how much offense we see in this one. Dodgers at just a 4.01 implied total. Braves at just a 3.58. I don't know that we're necessarily running out and rostering too much Dustin May. 8,100, 8,200. I think he's going to be effective for whatever we get him for. He's a very strong strikeout pitcher. Ludicrous horizontal movement on his pitches. Did throw 5 innings, got out to face 20 hitters in his last spring start. Struck out 6 in that game. Gave up 1 earned run on 1 hit that was not a home run, walked 2. Hit 2 batters. I think we're looking at like 5. And the reason I say that is because he's just a fragile guy. And I don't think they're going to get aggressive about rolling him out there, especially with the way they use their pen and the arms they've got in that bullpen. I think they're just looking for 5. That's what I gave him. That's why we're in like the lowish 20s. You give him a little bit more, 3 more hitters, that gooses that projection up to much more playable looking levels. And I do think he's got a little sneaky upside there, given the strikeouts available in this opposing lineup. So in just 5 innings, I think he's got more ceiling than might be revealed by this. And I think he's playable. But I don't think it's the aggressive go-get-it spot of the day. Chris Sale, it's just, it's really tough starting the season with Sale. Was it the Pods the first game and now the Dodgers? Against the Pods, kind of let us down. It wasn't a terrible start. 5 innings, he struck out 7, but he gave up 3 earned runs, 6 hits, walked 1. So it wasn't a great DFS start for us, unfortunately. He's only 8,800 on DraftKings today. He's fully priced at 10-2 against the Dodgers on FanDuel. I think if we do it on DraftKings. I don't think that's completely crazy. You could pay up to be contrarian and get a very good game out of Chris Sale against the Dodgers. There's no reason in the world to think somebody as good as Chris Sale couldn't beat this team. But it's super obvious to say this is a very challenging matchup. Last season, 2.38 ERA, 2.64 xFIP, struck out 32.1%, walked 5.6%, won himself a Cy Young. That's Chris Sale. So he's not off the board even at the high FanDuel price. I'll probably have a couple shares. This is probably going to get popular. I would think it should. Let's see. No. Misclick. Come on. There we go. Yeah, the field's sharp enough. 8,800 on DraftKings has him the third most popular DraftKings pitcher. Behind the two obvious. I think you can still play it. It's not any, and we don't really sweat individual ownership anyway. It's just, the compounding problems of it's a cheap price for him on DraftKings, but relative to the entire slate, it's not the cheapest price. And you get the compounding factor of the ridiculously good opponent and public ownership on top. Starts to really compress that a little bit. So I think Chris Sale's more playable on DraftKings. If he had been a better kept secret at that price, he would have been really appealing to, I would be saying, go get him. But hyper playable. Let's see what the FanDuel ownership looks like, just for the hell of it. I can't imagine he's crazy popular on FanDuel. 3:23, we're going to be out of here by 3:30 because I got projections to do for basketball and hockey, and they didn't do me any favors. Big slate on both. Going to be fun. That's Dustin May. He's more popular than I expected. Not really a pay up to be contrarian option even on FanDuel. I like him less on FanDuel, knowing that he's creeping into the mid-teens of ownership. But again, these ownership projections are very shaky. Not mine. I don't project ownership. Looking at bats, probably best to avoid for the most part. You can mine some contrarian shares of Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, maybe some Michael Harris in the leadoff spot up there. Oh, by the way, can we take a moment to talk about the full vindication that we received yesterday with Mr. Jerickson Profar taking an 80-game PED suspension? I knew something was up. I told you. Definitely never said that he was on PEDs. It's a shame. Who knows what actually it was, whether it was, he says it's not. They all say that. But damn, do I feel vindicated on that guy. Michael Harris should lead off until Acuna gets back. Great spot for him, 4,000, 2,800. I would definitely include him. I would take the power bats in Riley, Olson, Ozuna, and just run with them. Ozzy Albies would be my next man in. It's kind of just straight line off the top. You get a lot of talent. You get a ton of power upside. Everybody underperformed last season and missed a lot of time. Outside of like Matt Olson didn't miss time, and Marcell Ozuna was excellent all year and didn't miss time. But everybody around them, Olson was there but underperformed. Shaky. And a shaky start to this year for this Brave squad. It's like they collectively got together and decided, hey, despite us all being very good at this, we're not going to be good as long as Ronnie's not here. We're going to wait to be good again until Ronnie gets back. Might be the case. Drake Baldwin, Brian De La Cruz should be in the lineup. He'll be the direct replacement for Profar for right now. Went 0 for in 5 plate appearances yesterday. It's an effective hitter over time, though. I mean, that's not a crazy option to drop into the lineup. Brian De La Cruz hit 21 home runs, 233, 271, 384. A lot to be desired in that slash line, but 21 home runs for DFS. Year before, 259, 305, 412 with a 92 WRC plus, hit 19 home runs. It's a Brave style guy. Jared Kelenic, I still love the skill set. has 1 home run on the board and not that much else to talk about yet, but now an increased opportunity to go seize a regular job. All he's got to do really is beat out Brian De La Cruz while they've got the opportunity with Profar out, with Acuna still hurt. There's a real opportunity for Kelenic to finally become who he's supposed to be. And I will point out that Jurickson Profar on his way out the door burnt me one last time because for salary cap reasons, I had to trade Jarred Kelenic away after he lost his theoretical season-long starting job. So now he's going to get it back now that Profar, so that's 3 times that guy did screw me over. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez off the top of the Dodgers lineup. No secrets, no surprises there. 2 home runs apiece for all 3 of those guys so far this season. It's Chris Sale. So you take your chances if you roll even with the Dodgers here. Freddie Freeman took a fall in the shower like your grandma and maybe out for a little bit. We'll see what happens there, but probably not going to get Freddie today. But still, tons of upside here. Will Smith, one of the top catcher bats in the game, 467, 619, 733, start over 21 irrelevant plate appearances, has a home run on the board already. Tommy Edman is not this power hitter, but he's an effective enough run creator. You just don't love him in the heart of the lineup. I'd rather have Edman down there or up here. So he's just a mix and match guy, and he's still too expensive. $4,800 is a stupid broken price for Tommy Edman on DraftKings. $27 on FanDuel is where you would want him. Max Muncy, on the other hand, he should be $48, and Tommy Edman should be $43. Those prices are completely reversed. Max Muncy is a star power hitter, 3 true outcomes guy, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks, a lot of home runs. Enrique Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Andy Pages down the bottom of the lineup, all mix and match guys. Pages, probably my favorite with the power upside. You get maybe a little bit of production out of Rojas with the hit tool, but not much else. And then Enrique Hernandez fills a ton of positions for a fair price, can hit you the occasional home run, still did have a decent hard hit rate last season, didn't strike out a ton, but just overall, in the end, really weak season. One of his worst seasons on memory in memory. 12 home runs, but 281 on base, 229, 281, 373, 144 ISO, 83 WRC plus. He's more a real life utility man type than he is a super playable fantasy guy. So it's like a short Dodgers lineup, especially with Freddie out of it. If you're stacking it, it's really 1 through 6 that we're strongly considering, and we're really not considering 5 all that much. But fortunately, you've got a world-class 5-man that includes one of the best catcher options right there. And if you go that route, $5,000 apiece against Chris Sale. That's why we're skipping Dodgers. 4-run implied total. I'm not seeing it. It is one of the better teams, and as I talked about a lot over the years, when you make the decision, I'm going contrarian for contrarian's sake, well, do it with one of the better teams that's not that highly owned. But the corollary to that is not when that team is facing one of the very best lefties in all of baseball. Doesn't seem like the day for the Dodgers. Weak offense, so probably with these two, very good teams in terms of offensive upside, we'll get a 12-10 ball game out west to end the night, and it'll break the slate. With that in mind, you guys, that brings us to the end of the show. 329 on the nose. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Those of you who are watching the replay on hopefully 2.5 times speed, enjoy. Hit the like button. Really appreciate all of you. Check out rotoscouts.com. Everything, all the projections, the home run totals. Everybody loves the home run model. You get all of these totals for every single player. My custom home run mark for every guy comes with the projections. Stack rankings, home run picks that are my home run picks of the day, one for each team, and the overall pick of the day. Value rankings, etc. NBA projections, NHL projections, including all line combinations and power play combinations, which I really got to go start working on. Included for one price, under $1 a day, weekly, monthly, quarterly plans available at rotoscouts.com. I want to keep money in your bankrolls. We're here to cater to the people who is like 85% of the industry out there. The guy who's entering 1 lineup, 5 lineups, 25 lineups, maybe 150 from time to time. If you enter 150, everything that you get here works just as well for you. But there's a big neglected corner of the community that plays a handful of lineups and doesn't really want to pay a couple $100 a month for their projections. Check it out, guys. Give acemind.io a little bit of love, too. That's our sim and optimization partner. Those guys rock. Promo code ROTOSCOUTS, all in caps, 20% off your first month over there. So I encourage you to check them out, too. With that in mind, somebody go win something. I want to see another winning screenshot. Congrats again to the winners out there. A couple first places, a lot of success up at the top of the boards in big contests, in small contests, both sites. Love it. Go get them, guys. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share a screenshot when you do, and we'll be back tomorrow for more. Later.